What did you ask me before?
If your fez hat has any meaning, like, or are you just wearing it to be cool?
I'm wearing it to be cool. No, no. Well, you know, according to Robert Seffen, it's got esoteric meaning. But no,
Oh.
yeah. I mean, it's got. I always, for some reason, I always liked the Fez aesthetic, if you will. I kind of think
Hmm.
there's something ancient to it. You know, there's something
Ancient.
well, there's something meaningful to it, I guess.
There
There,
is something meaningful
yeah,
to it,
Robert
and I
Seffer.
kind of know.
Well, maybe.
I kind
No,
of do.
you kind of what? What'd you say?
I I kind of do know what it means. At least I think, because I don't know if we should get into it though. But what were you gonna say about Robert Suffer?
No, no, he had this video about the Fez, about like this hidden esoteric like
Oh, I
meaning, like
haven't
into the
seen that one.
dervishes, and yeah, I mean, very Indo content going on. No, but I always like
Oh,
the Fez, but people think I look kind of Eastern Orthodox in it, which is also an added like
you kind of do.
benefit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I always
I think
liked it.
it's
I don't know
cool.
why I liked it. Yeah. Oh, you think it's cool? That's very nice.
I
Thank
do. Yeah, I actually think it like completes your look.
you.
Yeah.
See, there you go. There you go. I have confirmation from an actual woman that says it completes my look. So there you go.
Yeah.
That
Stamp
is
of
what matters.
approval. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it.
Um. Oh, but yeah, I know it's just like I mean, I know it's a gimmick, but like it's I do wear it outside sometimes, so it's not totally. Um,
You
it's
do?
not. Well, yeah, yeah. It's
Do you
good. It's a good
get
winter hat.
do you get compliments like when you're out and about
Sometimes,
wearing
sometimes.
it? Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
cool. And
yeah.
so you've got the rosary on too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So yeah, you kind of have like a priestly look in a way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, might as well. Um, yeah, it's funny. It's yeah, I kind of do. Maybe I kind of maybe who knows? Maybe I thought about converting to Eastern Orthodoxy, but then I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I'm actually Orthodox. I was baptized.
Oh, really? Eh? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Romanian. There
yeah,
you go. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I thought about it like long and hard, but then I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is like being a being Italian, like Catholicism's like a it's like a genetic religion, if that makes sense.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm
Wow,
open
you
to
know
it. I'm
that.
open
That's
to it.
interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I the only thing is that the Catholic Church currently, like we talked about before, uh, has issues. Obviously, everybody knows that, but the roots seem to be good. At
Yeah.
least I think.
Yeah. I think that's come up recently. It seems to be like there's this. I'm gonna have someone on who's like more or less close to BAP. I noticed that there is this like war brewing right now between like the religious trads and like the what would you call them, like the more like secular far right, like the vitalists. I noticed there's like some like it seems that people are more open with going after each other now on Twitter
Yeah.
at least. But then, I mean, so I wonder, like, yeah, that's the topic of exploration. But anyways, how have you been actually? Been all right?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just busy. The summertime is always my busiest time, believe it or not.
really, eh?
Yeah, because family comes and it's just yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's great. I like it, but it's also kind of a mess. What about you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Summer is usually like interesting. Um, it's usually busy. I mean, content wise, because everyone's like available. Um,
Mm.
but I don't know. I guess when you work for yourself, everything's like a blurb after. Like the
Yeah,
seasons just drift into each other.
they
But
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, yeah. It's summer. Summer's always like this weird, like this weird sentiment. Like it's kind of like a very, I guess for its purpose, it has like a very Dionysian sort of like it's temporary. It's here. It's party
Mm.
time, and
Yeah.
it's like yeah, it's always very interesting to approach it like as a quote unquote content creator
Yeah.
from that perspective. But you
Yeah.
look ravishing today, by the way,
Oh,
Gifts.
thank
You're
you.
like you have the nice like almost like Sailor Moon type of
Is I do?
schoolgirl dress. You should wear the Dasha Sailor Moon. No, I'm kidding. I'm like, see,
This
I
is
totally
Sailor Moon?
no. It's got the sorry, it's the maid, not the schoolgirl. It's got the
Maybe.
maid esque.
Oh.
See, I totally ruined your point about women not objectifying themselves in like these online right wing spaces by objectifying you right now. See what I
Well,
did, ladies and
hold
gentlemen?
on.
I'm very clever that way. Um,
But hold on. I do think I do think it's important for women to be beautiful and look nice and
yeah, yeah,
presentable. And that's actually something that I think a lot of people don't really put an effort into anymore, and that's
yeah,
a
yeah,
bad thing. So
yeah,
I don't think caring about aesthetics is a bad thing, but just like if that's your main thing that you're doing, and especially the push-up bra, and there's it, I feel like it's a little different. I don't know, because like I have to look nice, and I obviously have my own vision of what looks nice. So
right.
and I don't like modern clothing really.
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
really into that type of thing. So yeah, I do look. I don't think I look eccentric, but I think I dress differently than other people. But I
Against
don't think it's
time, if
Sailor
you will,
Moon.
untimely.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's Sailor Moon though.
No, 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 no. I mean, if you really wanted to play up the anime cosplay, like feeding into the Sims, like I remember Lauren Southern used to have the like pajama pants with anime girls on it,
She
and
had that?
yeah, she posted pictures of it, and with her like little
Too
hedgehog,
far.
and it's like you know what she's doing, you know what
Yeah,
she's
of
doing.
course, of
Yeah,
course, of course. And
yeah,
even like for example, like I like cars. I don't like the mechanics of cars. Like I'm a girl, so I don't get that stuff. But I like them aesthetically. Like they're very beautiful. So
Even
I
when you
so I get
said it, like I'm a girl, I don't get that stuff.
but it's true. I don't
You're
have an
not like a
interest.
tomboy. You're not gonna like go under the hood, you
No.
know?
No,
Yeah,
no, I'm not. I'm not. I would be LARPing if I said that I was
right,
interested
right,
in
right,
cars.
right.
It's aesthetic. They're very beautiful, but or they can be. But yeah, like I even hesitate to like if I had a really nice car, like
Mm,
a beautiful car, to post a picture with myself in front of it or like in it,
yeah, yeah.
and that whole thing in general, like posting a picture of yourself, you're always trying to communicate something,
Mm,
anyhow.
mm.
So it I'm aware of these things, you're aware of these things, and someone like Lauren Southern might not realize we're aware of these things, and that like it can be kind of cringy. So yeah, I guess my point is, uh, I am aware of these things, and I do kind of worry about them, and maybe
Yeah.
maybe worry about them a little too much. But yeah, I mean, I have to be myself, and it's
Mm.
hard because as a girl in a right wing kind of space, I don't know, that everybody's criticizing you like a lot, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
on these things,
Obviously.
rightfully so, and that's fine.
No, no, not rightfully so. Well, okay. I
Yeah,
think
rightfully so, I think.
rightfully so, yes, in the extent that I mean, there's a variety of reasons why predominantly male spaces, especially in the political right, why they police. And my friend Catherine gets this a lot, unfortunately. I mean, it's almost like every week someone calls her a fed. Um,
Oh no.
yeah, I know. For
Or
some
is
stupid
she? I
maybe.
don't know her. I have no idea who she is. So
You don't know default friend?
no. I think you told me about Catherine. I vaguely
Catherine D,
remember.
yeah, default friend, yeah.
Yeah, I need to look
You'd
at
like
her.
her writings a lot, I think. I think you two would jive together. Um, no, but like I think like there's there's a reason why though. There's a sort of like why the self-policing happens. It's because,
Mhm.
well, first of all, we've been burned in the past by, not to say Lauren Southern specifically, but like
Yeah.
there has been some like very crazy e-girls who have infiltrated the right wing and have spread people's doxes and have, because
But you guys fall for it, okay? You
yeah,
guys can't
we
put it
do.
all on us because you guys give into it. And that was the
True,
point of
true.
me mentioning that thing with Lauren Southern because for me, I looked at the situation. I was like, okay, she's a libertarian girl with a push-up bra, this kind of look. And to me it was obvious. Like
Yeah,
I could tell what she's doing. But my friend, a very intelligent person, couldn't see the problem with this. So
mm, mm.
every guy's got their thing that can, reel them in, and you guys let it
Yeah.
happen. So you can complain and you can criticize, and I think we should. But at the same time, they do it for a reason. Like
Yeah,
she's
this is
doing it
true.
because you guys fall for it. So
Yeah,
you guys
this is
are
very
good.
true. I hate to
Yeah.
say it. I mean, it's very longhouse, ironically enough. No, but I think that yeah, it's true. We fall for it. And I think
Mm.
that when she was talking about like sort of the creepier like sexual advances of certain people in the quote unquote movement, even saying movement is like makes me want to take a shower, right? But
Yeah.
like, like but I think that, and of course her big critique was that people were accusing her of like sleeping with people for content. That was a big meme. Um that and like she didn't have
I
like, a woman on the right wing, they can't have original content. They have to basically fuel and like feed off of the intellect and the capacity to generate concepts for men, which I mean,
Yes,
somewhat is true, like not with everyone, but
it
I think like
is.
there has been certain right wingy girls who, like, when you put a pretty face upon, like, in front of a talking point, and you like, and you market it, like you could go to the moon, right? Like
Yeah, that's why
instant boom.
Fox News, like what they have
Yeah,
is the camera panned way out so that you can see their legs, and they're
yeah,
blonde, and they all
yeah.
kind of look the same, and that, yeah, it works.
That was the Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes tricked a generation of boomers into liking the women that he likes.
Oh, not, I wasn't
Yeah,
aware of
yeah.
that. Is
Like
he is he like a producer of Fox or
he
something?
ran Fox News. I think he's dead now. Yeah, if I
No.
recall.
Okay.
But yeah, he was the one that put like the Fox News aesthetic woman, like the Laura
Mm.
Ingraham look, to the to the front. But I think like, you know what's
Okay.
funny? You know what's funny? Because um today, okay, so I was finishing up watching this documentary. I might write something about it in my article series on the E-Right. But I was watching again, I was rewatching your video on what was it? Oh god, it was the one where you were talking about like drag time story hour, and you're like,
Oh,
but the way you were saying it, the way that you were like presenting it was like, wow, I can't believe they're normalizing all this degeneracy, and there's all this like the way you did it's so blasé, like you're just like this innocent little girl. Like I think in some ways you were critiquing the right wing e-girl who parrots talking points about, well, look at all this degeneracy, and I just want to, have 10 children and bake, bake pies with the spinny wheel on
yeah.
it, and like I thought
Yeah.
that was fucking brilliant. That was brilliant. What
Thank
you were
you.
doing. And the way, and of course, like the music. Though, you know what your ambient track reminds me of when you used to have the
Mm.
computer was do you know what Dilbert one? Not Dilbert one. Do you know what? Oh, there was a Dilbert one. Do you know what Dilbert 2 and Dilbert 3 is by Chef Boyardee?
No.
You've never heard of?
What
Okay,
is that? No.
so C. Boyardee used to be this like OG animator who
Oh.
did these videos in MS Paint. And the famous ones were Dilbert 2 and Dilbert 3, where there were like these absolutely horrendous like characters where Dilbert just goes insane. And you should watch, I'll send it to you. It's amazing.
Yeah, send them over.
Yeah, and so the music in the background was kind of like that same like how should I put it? Very like monotonous, but like almost on edge. Like almost
Mm.
like kind of like certain chip tunes in certain levels of video games. Like it's got like I think Dilbert 2 actually used like a chip tune from, I forget which exact video game. But it's like it's got the same vibe to it, like that dun dun dun, like it's like everything. Oh, how can I even put it? There's a sort of like unconsciousness to the character that you portray. And there's sort of like you're a babe in the woods, but things are going nuts, but like you don't realize things are going nuts until later, and you're just sort of like going into it, like the way that the computer is just like basically the voice of power, like the voice of the regime, but you don't even realize it. Of course, well, to your more recent video where you sort of get rid of the computer.
I was trying to piece it together.
Yeah. No, but I think it's brilliant, like the way that, because at first glance, I think when it comes to a lot of your videos, I think like people would think, oh, well, this is more of a creative way to get at what you were saying, people that just comment on the news. But there's something more though. It's almost like there's a critique of the way in which we portray, like, okay, this is the latest horrible thing happening in the modern world or whatever. And I think like you're very effective at doing that. You're very effective at sort of like highlighting issues in a different manner than just people that spit, like, podcasts and talk about the news all day. But also you're critiquing that element of, this is just like doom, this is doom pornography. This is like, in itself, this is a way that we cope by being like, well, this is what's happening in the modern world today. And it's like, I don't know, maybe that's just me reading into it.
No,
that's just reselling it, but
No, that's exactly it. And that's actually one of the reasons why I did things the way that I did. I could see the way that, especially girls, going back to your original point, and most people in the community, even guys, they, everyone's just kind of doing the same thing. And what's the point of doing that? And I was told by somebody in the community that has a bigger YouTube channel that I should, just kind of be like one of those Lauren Southern types, and then I would do really well.
Oh no!
And I said no.
God.
I said no. I want to do my creative thing, and I want to try to get at something bigger, because, like I said, that type of attention is not interesting to me. So yeah, and the way that you describe things, that is what I'm trying to do. And I think it's cool that you're able to pick up on it, because I think a lot of people don't know what's going on, but there is more. And yeah, it is kind of a goof, because like my character is somewhat of a meme. There's a really great video by what's his name? Now I'm forgetting his name right now. Sam Hyde, and he's talking about the e-girl, or not the e-girl, this perfect like 1950s like
trad housewife
girl.
Yeah,
and it's stupid. And I've noticed people will do this. They'll pick up on something, and then they'll say, okay, well, now I'm 1950s girl, and I make pies and stuff, and there's like a template, and then they're that template, and they're not being themselves. They're not just being a real person. That's not good. You should never do that. And you should look out. He was saying, watch out for people who do that. In fact, that 1950s like trad girl could actually be more dangerous than,
she could actually be gathering your docs information and releasing it to people for her own benefit. And then it turns out you're not an epic step warrior bodybuilder, but wow.
Did she do that? Are you?
There's been a few instances of this that's happened. On Twitter, there was this one instance, but I'm not going to get into it because the guy is cool with me, and I think what happened to him was so screwed up. And I think like people making fun of him, like I understand you walk into these situations. I mean, to tell you the truth, like I'm actually surprised. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just that ugly, but like I'm surprised it hasn't happened to me where some e-girl just like pops into my. No, I shouldn't say that. There was this one woman who did pop in my DMs, who
Okay.
said that she was attracted to me, but it would never go anywhere because she's a damaged woman, and oh, this is a big long thing. But she's cool. But like,
Okay.
it was a weird. Why am I saying this? Why am I admitting this? It was this weird intellectual thing. I think if I was another person that didn't view everything through this like theory cell brain, I probably would be like totally destroyed by this. And maybe I am, maybe
Oh.
secretly am. But this
Oh.
woman, and I know she's a woman, by the way, I've seen her account on Twitter. Um, she's like, we were talking, it became a conversation about like when you give someone information that by definition or is very difficult to actualize on, and you sort of play with someone's emotions that way by admitting your feelings to them, whether that is like a valid thing to do or whether that's something that should be left unsaid. And I think it was a very interesting like experiment, right? But anyways, my point being is that
rephrase that. Say that last part again. I don't.
it was a very interesting experiment.
Mm.
Oh no, the last part was like when you give someone information that affects them on a very deep emotional level, especially when you're sort of like typical, I think, like lonely guy, sort of left behind by the modern world, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I mean, we all want to like have kids and stuff. We can't be too rigid. So,
Right.
and you are going to communicate with people online. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, obviously, you could, find somebody who's actually just they just have bad intentions. But it's not a bad thing in itself, and there's no reason to be, upset at yourself for, being interested.
I think that it's interesting because unfortunately a lot of guys, like, let's face it, a lot of neurodivergent guys who get conned into like basically having a parasocial relationship with like a semi-attractive woman on the internet. I think like it's very interesting how on the one end we make fun of it viciously and we think that it's terrible and you're a simp and all that.
Yeah.
But on the other end, I think that it's entirely reasonable that when you do have that level of female attention for like sometimes like, once in your life ever, then it's like, maybe I'm just telling on myself, but like, maybe there's something to it where, yes, it's despicable, it's horrible, but then on the other end, it's like, it's going back to the thing what Satra said about the victim and the perpetrator blended into each other. It's like the e-girl herself also experiences a loss and an inability to feel integrate certain levels of emotion. And so I don't fault any woman doing this sort of like Black Widow type of thing. I do fault them, but
yeah,
I think I'm much more reasonable than a lot of other right-wing people on Twitter. But I think, where am I getting with this? As much as people have talked about like, oh, Gio's a simp and all that, I have managed to avoid like the, e-girl popping into my DMs wanting to develop a simp parasocial relationship. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I just haven't tried hard enough. But like, I don't know why. For as much as people call me a simp, and by the way, I'm not ass blasted about it. I think it's funny. There was something that Jorge of the West, he said this on Twitter once. He said that sometimes you simp so hard that you go back to like this ancient picture of romantic love. And I truly think that there is this platonic ideal going on that when you simp so hard, you go back to the genuine thing. And I think that's, maybe that's what I'm
doing.
Yeah,
it wraps around. Yeah, I know what you're getting. What you're getting at. It's hard because like everyone is reacting to something culturally that's happening, and because women are taking advantage of men, and also like the political situation isn't good, revolving around women. So I get the impulse, but I still feel that I don't feel like you have, from what I've seen. I wouldn't say you're a simp. I think you're just you're a bigger picture person. I think a lot of people, like I said, you're a bigger picture person, and so you can see things in the long run, how they'll end up going. I think, and so can I. And so in the immediate, I think a lot of people get caught up in the negativity and want to react. They're kind of flinching, I think, when it comes to women, and I get that. I understand why they're flinching, and so it's,
Right.
they want to
Exactly.
call somebody a simp, and that's fine. I get it. We need to bash people for being simps. That's like almost worse than what the women are doing, honestly. But
Yeah.
in your case, you're very aware of the dynamics, and I mean, at this point, people are. It's almost like if you're being polite to women, if you're being
Right.
nice to women, if you're not treating women, like trash in this community, that people will think that you're a simp. Obviously,
Exactly.
there's something wrong with that. We have to draw a line somewhere. So I don't think you're like that. I don't think you're like simping. I don't
No.
think so.
I've only given money to one woman.
Uh-oh. Maybe I take
No,
this
I'm
back.
kidding. No,
What was
no,
what
I've
was the
only
situation?
no. The situation is I actually pay for my friend Yana's podcast, Hate Fiction, which, by the way, amazing podcast.
Well,
I
that might be fine.
Yeah,
If it's
yeah.
legit good content,
It's
then that might
amazing.
be fine.
You'd love it actually. It's amazing because like the thing is, that's why I think I liked. That's why I got into I became friends with Catherine. I think that a lot of like women who hover around the right who are more or less serious rather than trying to cultivate an army of simps. I
Mm.
think that uh, it's very interesting to look at that perspective because we talk about like the millennial and the Zoomer man, but the perspective of like the millennial and Zoomer woman who's growing up online is much needed. And this is why I support hate fiction. And I'll have Gianna on one day because amazing podcast, amazing guest. There was one really great episode of my friend name is Impossible Princess on Twitter, and there are two actually amazing episodes, and they talk about like a lot of the similar stuff that I think we're into, like a lot of the early internet aesthetics and the sort of really the aesthetic that crafts a lot of the e-girl and what the e-girl means. And I think like there is something about our connection to like the sort of halcyon days of the internet and a sort of like lost futures thing and why we love this aesthetic. So, but anyways, that's just
Mhm.
we'll get to that topic. We'll get to that topic because we didn't get
Okay.
to that last time. But about the e-girl, I think the e-girl, it's something like that me and Crooner talked about, where on the one end, yes, it's like okay, there's this very mercenary type of thing of like garnering attention from lonely men on the internet.
Yeah.
But also, I think that when it comes to like fulfilling a role, an archetype, a sort of motivating force that the
Mm.
e-girl represents. The e-girl, the essence of the e-girl, is filled by not just the male gaze, but also the fantasy, the sort of archetypal content of the man, of the sort of particular type of men that inhabit the internet. And and I think that there's something that is very interesting in that relationship. There's something that goes both ways in a way. And but then the problem is like he has experience where he actually dated an e-girl that followed him online. And it
Okay.
was almost like the relationship, they moved in together. And this is all in content minded episode two of content minded. Where it was almost as if they were playing a role together while they were
Like
living together.
in real life. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It was almost like a live action role play 24/7. Where she would like play the character of the like doting tsundere, like e-girl, right? And
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah,
Well, a question, but like a
I'm just
point too.
rambling right now, so it's
Uh, well, the biggest problem that I have with like our culture right now is fakeness. That's like one of the main
yeah, me
things.
too, man, me too.
And it's, yeah, fakeness is the biggest thing, and people will act like everyone is like an actor.
Mhm.
That's what it feels like. You can't just be yourself. But then there is I guess everybody's kind of acting in a way, like even if you're being genuine, because if you want to be a part of a group, you have to you will unconsciously notice the things that everybody's doing, and then you want to reciprocate, or else the
Yeah.
group won't allow you in. So being genuine and being fake and all that stuff, I don't know if we can't not be actors to a certain extent. Can somebody really be like genuine, and what does that mean? I think maybe my answer would be that if you're getting your influence from something higher, that that is probably what being genuine is. That's how you know that you're being genuine. When you're only looking at your peers for your inspiration for who you are, then you're going to end up with all of these, like the e-girl and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think that we're all just actors and there's nothing we can do, or do you think that you can truly be genuine and not be fake
I
with who
oh,
you are? Does that make sense? I hope that
no, it
makes
makes
sense.
perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. I think that I've struggled with this question for a long time, and I've actually like written about it and talked about it. Um,
Oh,
I
cool.
think that we have to enter a period of sincerity, not like the new sincerity garbage of like, you know, like a lot of these libs on online, like they'll talk about like, metamodernism or whatever. But I think that there has to be a level of sincerity, because I think that in terms of like what we're doing online, we're going from a stage of adolescence to a stage of maturity, and like the break from 2016 was a good indicator of that. And I think that
Yeah.
when it comes to playing a role, I mean, obviously there's the classic. What did our Todd call it? The was it our Todd? What was the who wrote the? Was it our Todd that wrote the book on mimesis? Yeah, yeah, yeah. About the double bind, where in the mimetic chain you are well, sorry, Gerard talked about this, and our Todd, where you are mimicking the in group is mimicking you, and there is a sequence of doubling of this mimetic chain that happens naturally. And
Mm.
to bring like again Lauren Southern's documentary, it seems that when you're like these grifters at the very top, they were subject to the same forces of mimesis and in group out group, like very Schmittian type of thing, right? And like you have to put your dues in. And I think like the problem is a lot of these online spaces, let's face it, they're like outlaw mud shows, as they say in wrestling, right? It's like the competition to the mainstream. It's like janky, like barely functional outlaw mud show type of a spectacle. And
Yeah,
so
definitely.
therefore, yeah, and so the incentives to cut and run are great. Like the incentives to um the barriers to entry are great and numerous. The consequences and risks are numerous, and the
Yeah.
reward is like very few, and the reward is like very small. And the reward and
Good
like is
point.
yeah, unless you get to like a good position, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you asked about like, can there be a space of authenticity and being yourself? Like, I mean, I like to think that I'm trying to be like myself, but I know that like inevitably the way that people interpret you and the way that like just by being someone who produces something, whatever that is, by that very nature that develops a parasociality where people you're not in charge of the way people perceive you always, right? And
Right.
this is even more evident in the internet age. But I think that there are a few people who can rise above the level of just mimicry and who can truly like create themselves and create a persona that is original. And there are people that just by sheer will of not caring about the consequences of certain things that are willing to sort of craft a space for themselves. And like, I mean, my friend Paul Town, for instance, is like one of these people. And I think that there the problem is the vast majority of people, it's very comfortable to just like not create something, but to follow something.
And it's
Right.
easy. It's really
Very,
easy to do. And to
yeah.
me, it's offensive. Like Roger Scruton actually has a great bit about how originality, that concept has been taken too far because
Yeah.
but like novelty and stuff like that in art and in culture, and
Yeah.
that's a bad thing. But at the same time, yeah, the mimicry that goes on, I can see what somebody's doing, and to me, if somebody hams it up a little too much and there's no originality there. I mean, everybody's kind of bothered by this, but I'm like really aware of it. Like I'm probably a little too in tune with it. But yeah, it really bothers me. It's really important, in my opinion, to be original and
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
yourself. That's something I really value. Uh, I forget where I was going with that point. But what were
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
saying?
No, I think that yeah, it's true. Um, in a sense about originality. Um, there is something to be said about how originality becomes a gimmick and it becomes something
Yeah.
that's worshipped. And I mean, a lot of our enemies, like, they also have this like pretense to worshiping the new, and I think like that's a big problem.
Yeah.
But I think like you can be original in the sense that the way you go about already existing things is different, or it's authentic to who you are rather
Yeah.
than yeah, rather than something that is like I'm creating something wholly original because like, let's face it, everything's
You
been done
can't. You
under the
can't
sun.
really.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's a new arrangement, but you're taking influence, which goes
Right.
back to the original like question slash point. It's kind of hard to not be influenced by something, other people or whatever. That's just a given, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's hard to like avoid a lot of like the petty conflicts that goes on and a lot of like horse trading between people, and it's like I don't like this person, you shouldn't talk to them. I don't like this group of people. And
I
it's just
can't
like
say.
yeah, it's like oh man. But then there's another aspect where people that do how should I put it? There are certain targets that are pretty much universally hated by a lot of people, and it becomes very hard to like defend them, and it's very easy to like go along with the crowd, but it always becomes in my mind a wager of like, is this person what they're doing worthy of critique, or it's not, or people are just like, this is the latest lolcow that we're tipping today. It's like
Yeah.
in the beginning of those cycles, it's very fun. It's very, oh my god, you hear what's happening? Like it's
Mhm.
even today with its documentary, it's like, do you hear what's happening? Oh my god. But then you start to like, and well, I mean, in this case it's different because obviously the people that Lauren Southern's critiquing, I mean, a lot of them are scum. But like
Mm.
but with other people though, it's like, okay, we're tipping the cow right now, but and
Yeah.
there's sort of like a ritual around the group dynamic of like, okay, we're critiquing this person because they messed up and like they're cringe or whatever. But then after a while, I think that this becomes like a cycle that you must fuel, and then it's really like the dynamic, the ecology, the ecological arrangement in these online ecosystems is such that when you predicate worth on like this drama and tipping cows and milking the Jule, right? Then it's
Yeah.
then it's like that's what happened to IBS. It had to feed itself. It had to just like the sugar had to go into the yeast all the time.
Mm.
Um, and there's still people that linger on and persist, and they will never claw their way out of that legacy of that very small window in which they were relevant to like a huge number of people.
Mm.
And this always goes in cycles. And I think that
It
people don't
does.
realize it goes in cycles.
Well, yeah. If you study musicians and you look at their careers, they don't have more than normally like a 5 year span where they'll be relevant.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that what they try to do, obviously they want to go for longevity, but it rarely ever works out.
Yeah.
uh, and because there's a cycle, and especially now, uh, things move so quickly, obviously because of the internet and everything like that. But I don't even know if it's necessary that somebody sticks around forever.
Mm.
I think very few people should stick around. There are people who are genuine and really truly contributing, and those people end up sticking around, like Roger Scruton. That he's never really gonna fade out. As
Right.
an
Right.
example, that or Nietzsche or something. I mean, as far as online people are concerned, I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head, but most people I think have to disappear. Like
Yeah.
well, we should definitely talk about the futurist thing
Hmm.
that's going on. It's kind of unrelated but kind of related because I've noticed that that's like a thing that's happening and it's really trendy and cool. And it's kind of like you have the trads and now there's like this new group of people which you seem to be associated to. That's kind of like rising up and they're like, no, we're not going to be like that. But I don't know what's going on with you guys. So,
Well, yeah, it's. I don't think there's like a movement. I think that there is.
but there's a trend. There is
Yeah.
definitely, I have
Yeah.
noticed a trend. So, yeah, I don't know if this is the right time, but I kind of feel like I really want to know what you think about that whole thing. No.
No, I think it's a positive deal. I mean, I think like with any group, there's people that I mean, there are certain people that I think, well, I mean, there are certain fans of the Austrian painter who are more, like you could say, secular, and
Or
more
the
like,
Austrian painter. Oh, okay, yeah. I
yeah,
get
yeah,
you.
yeah. They're like the sort of the vitalist, racist anime people, but I think that don't have like that don't have as much of a reverence for like tradition or Christianity or like I think
Fair
like
enough.
but then like I mean what me and Fen and others are doing, that's I think different as well. I
It
think
is.
like
And I
there
think
ha-
I
yeah.
think what I'm doing is different too, and I don't quite fit in to either of those groups. But I kind of make more sense with you and Fen, even though I have some disagreements. Uh, but yeah, continue your point.
No, but yeah, I wanted to talk about like what you're doing, but yeah, I think that I think that there is a growing, number of people, like people that have written for I'm 1776 and like what we were doing at Passage, where there's this recognition that you have to break free of just merely aesthetic posting and this sort of
Yes.
like trad larping that goes on. And I think that it's very difficult for a lot of people because I understand like there is a reverence for the greatness of the past, and there's a sense that it's either impossible or it's very hard and very improbable to like sort of replicate the conditions by which those great works of art arose.
Mm.
But then the response shouldn't be paralysis, because really, when you think about it, just being an aesthetic poster is paralysis in a way.
Yeah, I couldn't
It's
agree more.
right, like
Yeah.
it's the inability to recognize that there has to be a way going forward, that you can take a lot of those styles and lessons and ideas and inspiration and the sort of the metaphysics that have created those works of art of the past, but you need to do something not entirely original, but at least something authentic, at least something that
Yeah.
is present to, not present to our moment, that's something that can transcend the moment, but speaks to us as well.
If you want things to move forward, you need to refurbish ideas. Like if there's a you can't take something from the past and just put that in front of people and have that be, oh, we're doing this now and now everybody's going to be with traditionalism and fine with it and everything will go back to the way it was. It doesn't work like that. You have to take, like you said, take things. You just have to refurbish these ideas so that they make sense within the context that we're currently living in. That's really important to do. So that's why I don't really like what they're doing. Though I get it because if I remember correctly in art school, in our history class, one of the things that kicked off the Renaissance was finding old texts of like
Right. Yeah.
the
Neo
Greeks or
Hellenism.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also it was the statues that they found. And like I said before when we had talked, the physiognomy is an important aspect of things because you look at these statues and you see, oh, this is us. So and that is a problem that we're currently facing. So to their credit, to the traditionalists that are seem kind of cringy and unoriginal in what they do, again, that is an important thing that we like
Right.
reconnect with our past,
Yeah.
and that part is fantastic. But
Yeah.
but these people do have a tendency to kind of push people who are trying to actually do something creative. They kind of push them to the sideline. Oh, that's not traditional. We're not doing that, and that's what's wrong. So
Yeah.
anyhow, I think
Yeah, yeah, and I think like the problem is like we talked about this before about like the industry that's like been created to like accommodate like people going to ateliers and the art renewal center and like classical realism, like that's
Mhm.
like like a lot of that stuff is very like I don't know, not appealing. Like it's just some of it's good, but a lot of it like is they're just going through the motions in terms of technique rather than content.
Yeah.
Like the form rather than like what's that distinction? Content and form or what's it called? Style and form. I forget. Anyways, yeah, it's all form driven. It's all like the sort of technique. That's the technique of it. But a lot of them, they approach art as like an artisan craft rather than like the work of art.
Well,
So
then you get into
yeah,
this issue of a taboo kind of in art school, or when you're an artist, is like making pots or making jewelry and stuff
Hmm,
like that, because that's purely in the craft section. So I see
right.
what you're saying, and it is kind of associated to that, which is one of the reasons why when I was in art school and I was pursuing that path, I decided, you know what, I think this is mostly skill based, and I want to do something more creative. Because at the time, I had got, like I had told you, I had gotten really good at the technical end, but that only takes you so far. There's a whole
Right.
other world of, that's why you like the expressionists, and I like the expressionists too, to a certain point, though I do think that they were kind of damaging to that generation of people, like with their messaging and stuff. But that's a different point. But yeah,
Yeah, like a lot
creativity
of them were like
is
decadent
important.
bourgeois. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and it was like not it was nihilism, and it was, oh well, we have Freud now, and or psychology, and that becomes an important thing. And I get it. There is an important transition that happened where you moved from John Singer, John
Dancing a
Singer
sergeant.
Sargent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite painters. I wanted to emulate him. He's fantastic, more so technical, and with a little bit of like impressionism. It's really, his paintings are fantastic.
Oh
But
yeah.
anyhow, he's kind of that like middle ground between photography, like photos of people, because
Yeah.
in the past the only way you could depict somebody was if you painted them, or drew them. And so he's kind of this line between photography and something more creative. But yeah, when you get to the expressionist, and or you even get to like, yeah, like Picasso and people like that, they're reacting to the fact that now we have cameras. That's like a really
Hmm, hmm.
important thing to keep in mind, that okay, well, we don't need to depict people anymore. We don't need to have hyper realistic paintings or sculptures, because now we have photography to do that for us. So there's a lot of merit in just like totally immersing yourself into like the mind and into like the spirit world, and that's kind of what they were doing, and that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of even the New York people were doing that. Like even before the New
Yeah.
York people, the jump off between that and the New York school was two factors. Well, at least in my estimation, one was the group of seven, which as a Canadian, like that's very important to me. Live under the shadow of. Another would be like the Northwestern school, painters like Morris Graves and Mark Toby, who were doing very explicit religious art, and who later inspired a lot of the New York painters. But then, of course, like the sort of influence from continental Europe. I mean, when Urshel Gorky came to New York, that was really big. And when a lot of other people, a lot of immigrants, um, not just, I mean, Urshel Gorky, but maybe not just like tribal members, but there were other ones. I mean, they came
Uh-huh.
from, yeah. I mean, a lot of them were Rosicrucians actually. They're the real tribal members of the art world. But it's funny because before this, I'm actually watching a number for the stream tomorrow. I'm actually watching about a number of Ryan Gosling films. Me and
Yeah, you
Prudential.
were telling me.
Yeah, The Believer. Yeah. So
What are you
nothingness.
starting? What are you starting with?
I think we're gonna start with Lars and the Real Girl.
Oh, I have not seen that one, though
Yeah,
it looks
that one's good.
charming.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
we're gonna do Drive and then The Believer. The Believer's got to be like
Have you
the
seen Drive?
yeah. That's what we're doing. Drive. Yeah.
But have you seen it? Like
Oh
have
yeah,
like
yeah. I
before?
saw it.
Yeah. Okay.
I saw it a while
Drive is
ago,
great.
but then I rewatched it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I rewatched it recently, and it was just as good as I remember it being. It
yeah,
was really
yeah,
good.
yeah. I Drive is interesting how that movie became like one of the Gosling. Like he's just like me. I think maybe because there's this great tweet by my good friend Zanti who runs the Mytho American count on Twitter. He said about like Ryan Gosling is the archetype of the new male because he's like detached, neurodivergent, quasi nihilistic, sacrificial, goes for unconventionally attractive women. And there's something about I think the characters of Ryan Gosling that appeals to the millennial and Zoomer man in like middle North America. There's something about that. And
Oh
then when
yeah, for sure.
and then he directed Lost River, which is Lost River deserves an episode on its own. Um, but anyways, what was I getting with Ryan Gosling?
What were we talking about before that?
Oh, about the impressionists. Yeah.
Ah,
No, I mean a lot of it's just because a lot of it's because I can't paint realism. Like, just no.
for
Yeah.
real? Is that the reason,
Oh,
Jim?
that's one of the reasons. I mean, I'm sure if I concentrated a lot, I could get somewhat decent. But I mean,
No, listen, I
I'm
actually
not like my friend Matthew, though. Man,
I,
no.
it's yeah, it's hard to draw very realistically or have like those techniques down, but there are some simple tricks. And I actually had a friend in a life drawing class that was terrible. Like they weren't like horrible, but they were not very good. And then I just gave them some simple tricks, like tips, and they came back and they were really good. So basically, what you want to do is just a quick tip. Uh, if you sit down and you just for like a month draw a bunch of a bunch of the masters, like you literally just copy them.
Yeah, but I'm always
If you
adverse
do
to
that,
copying that because
but
it's
hold
like,
no. What you do is you do that for like a month. Like I did the whole Sistine Chapel ceiling in high school. Like I literally just copied it. And because
whoa,
my teacher told me that one of the things that I think he was saying it's like something that European tradition, like uh, uh, people who are learning how to draw, they'll copy masters like perfectly. And then
yeah,
what that ends up doing later is when you actually want to make an art piece, you suddenly have like it's almost like the mechanic skills like down. And I noticed that it actually worked. So if you want those skills, just spend like a month just drawing as perfectly as you can, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, and then you'll be able to draw like Michelangelo. It's really cool. It actually works.
yeah. Back in the 18th century, it was 18th century or this they I think like on the weekends on the Louvre, the students, the sort of the atelier students, they were able to like actually pick the paintings off the wall and like put chalk on them to like outline
Oh,
and copy them as like practice. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
that is a tradition. I know like I
It works.
do yeah, I do that sometimes when it comes to like engraving, when it comes to like either metal plate or plexiglass where I'll like with pen and ink I'll draw like I'll take, for example, Cook, who was the engraver for Turner, who would like translate his paintings into plate engravings. I'll like take like a hyper specific part of like the
Mhm.
foliage because like for some reason I'm always like bent out of shape about foliage, so I'll like
Mhm.
copy his engraving technique with pen and ink, And it's like I do notice like it
But to
does.
be fair,
Yeah.
not I mean, to clarify, not like you put it on the paper and then trace over it. Like
No, I mean like
you
I'm
have it on the
trying to
side.
intuit it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I don't believe in
it does
tracing. I don't believe in
helps.
tracing.
No, tracing is a big no-no. You
Yeah.
cannot trace. It's
People
like
do it, like even
embarrassing.
professional artists do it, but I'm like, why? Why?
No, no, that is definitely not okay. Big
Well,
no.
I mean, printmaking, you could excuse it a little bit because it is difficult.
Maybe.
Because
Maybe,
like,
yeah. Maybe.
yeah, but I try not to. I try not to. I
Do you
even like printmaking. I don't do that.
do you do you do you take any life drawing classes? Like go to
No,
like the
no,
studio and oh, you should do that
I should.
because that'll really yeah. And if you can draw a face, by the way, if you can draw a face, you can draw anything.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit better
Yeah.
at pieces. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like here's a recent piece I did for a commission, a book cover, which is like, but it like you can't see because it's reverse, obviously with woodcut. Um, a guy wanted
Yeah,
me
sure.
for his. He wanted a skull with like an electric socket in the center, and I also did a nice decorative border for him too. So
Oh, oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
that's not. There you go.
So
Oh shit, trying to, yeah,
so what are you
that's on
using to
maple.
what are you using to because I've taken printmaking classes in college. What are you using to like actually do the print? Are you just using like a roller, like pressing down on it with a book or
Oh,
something? Or do you have like a
I have
machine?
I have like a little a small like a small roll like what do they call it? I can't believe I forgot the name. I have like one of those small etching presses
Ah,
for
cool.
but for the plates for like plexiglass and metal engraving because I do quite a bit of wood engraving. Like here is I don't know if you could see it. It's hard to see. This is one I did of Niagara Falls.
Let me see.
I don't know if you could see it.
Oh, cool. Did you just do that on a rock?
No, this is wood engraving. So it's not like
Oh,
this one
that's
was
wood engrave. Okay.
yeah, this one's wood cut, but this is done on cherry that I actually harvested myself
Oh,
because of
sweet.
my old man's, being the son of a contractor, it is quite nice to have a lot of like tools available to you. So this is done in cherry, but I have to like raise one part of it because sometimes you can't get a totally even cut with like raw
Yeah.
wood. Um, so I love like
Printmaking,
no, what'd you say?
go ahead. I
No,
was
I
just
said
gonna say that printmaking is great because you can repeat things over and over again. I do like that because once you have the engraving, you can produce as many pieces as you want. And you just forever
yeah,
you'll still have it.
it's like an NFT,
But
but
go
it's
ahead.
physical, folks. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yes.
I like I treat I so I love wood engraving. I love wood cut, but I'm trying to get more into like plexiglass and copper plate because I do have. Let me see if I can pull it out. I have like I actually bought a bunch of them, traditional like basically jewelry tools like are called
Oh,
burins, right? Like
nice. Yeah, I have those.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So I mean these ones they're from Mueller's and they're like I think this one was made in the 50s. I have like a whole set of them, but I do have the nice ones that come from EC Leon's. Like I even have the multiple ones that are quite expensive. Um that do multiple lines, but they're good because you can do plate engraving and you can do wood engraving. And of course like I
Mhm.
have like a bunch of wood I have to harvest too. But I do like wood engraving is like my thing, but I treat printmaking the same way that I think like Edvard Munch and Kathy Kollwitz and even Gauguin treated it, where it's really like an extension of sketching. And I love playing like with the thickness of the inks and sort of getting people getting like something that's different each time. But of course,
Have
like
you
some,
seen
yeah.
Rembrandt's
Oh yeah,
prints?
the dry
Because
points. Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
they're
Oh,
better
amazing.
than his paintings, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah.
They're
Oh yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, making is sweet. What is not cool and not okay is photography. Like
Oh
I don't
man.
think I've been to so many art museums, art gallery, art galleries, shows for all sorts of things, and I'm never ever ever impressed with the photography. And it doesn't even make sense because photography, for the most part, it's to document something. And
Right.
yes, the only case you could make for photography as art would be, here's some Japanese, here's a street in Japan, and it looks cool, and here's a location you can never go to, or here's an animal, like National Geographic kind of thing. But as like art, there's almost like no merit in it whatsoever.
Oh, I don't know.
Or do you disagree?
I'll disagree with someone. But anyways, I didn't finish though. So for the plates, I
Yeah,
have
go
the
ahead.
rolling
Sorry.
press. But me and my old man actually built, because I'm not gonna spend $200 or $300. No, actually more. They're more nowadays, because a bunch of like R-worded hipsters like restore them and they ruin the patina. But me and my old man actually built a nipping press out of, because
Oh,
I have access to a welder, an arc welder, and no, yeah. So the nipping press, it's like it saves me. Like I still do a lot of like I still like doing with certain smaller ones and certain line ones. The Japanese the Kyue, like the traditional printmaking, like sometimes I'll do a little bit of color, like with the
I
bird,
love
with the,
Japanese prints. Yeah,
yeah, like
they're
I
great.
have let me see, I'll show you actually. I have just like a plastic burin with like to mimic the holes.
Mhm.
I actually bought, this took me, this actually, oh, where is it here? These are all my gouges. Like I have like the professional PFAL ones from Sweden, because
Oh, cool.
like I for like years I used like the really like crappy home hardware stuff.
That's
Like,
basically what I have. I
yeah,
don't have
yeah.
anything legit in that
So really,
department.
I'm equipment mogging you.
Well, that's fine. Art
Don't worry about it.
equipment is really fun. Like just
Yeah,
having it and taking care of it and
yeah,
all of
yeah.
that
Taking
and
care of
buying
it.
it.
Why are we nerding out right now?
No, because, well, I mean, there is a good
You
point to be
use
made.
oils, right? Is that what you used to use, or do you use what do you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was doing printmaking for a while just to test it out, and I started getting really dizzy when using the chemicals, and I for a while I wasn't using gloves, which was really
Oh
bad.
no.
I was using solvents, and I
Oh
started
no.
getting really bad headaches. And then because I'm a hypochondriac, I freaked out and I was like, I'm gonna get cancer and die. So I like wouldn't do it
Me too.
anymore.
I'm a bit of, believe it or not, I'm a bit
Are
of a
you?
hypo. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I only use water-based ink.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay. Use water base because
yeah.
I'm considering. I will admit I kind of stopped oil painting because of like my hypochondria, like
You know what you'd
slightly,
like?
ever so slightly.
Let me show you. Let me show you. You know what you'd like for printmaking? Let me show you. Where is it? Two things you'd like. Oh God, where's the tube? Please.
I don't
Oh
think I would print make again. I think I would want to go back to painting, but I would want to use like water based paints because
yeah,
I
yeah.
I've heard. Yeah, I mean,
Here it is. Here it
acrylic.
is. I got it. Well, acrylic. When you get used to it, like a lot of people, they've said that like my work looks like oil because like,
Oh, I thought it was oil.
oh
Oh,
really?
I thought it was oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
tricked me. You tricked
Ah,
me. I thought
I
it was oil. I
tricked
mean,
you.
I would be able to tell in person though. So if I
Right.
see in person, you wouldn't fool me. And it smells
Maybe
different.
one day you come over, you'll see them in person.
Maybe.
Like here, the one I have behind. Well, I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you later. But no, because I use a variety of mediums with
Yeah.
and my process is very similar to like an oil painter in terms of layering. So a lot of people, like even people that have used oils a lot, they're like, "Well, is that oils?" I go, "No, it's acrylic, right?" Like there's purists, like that one guy who had a PBS show, the landscape painter, what's his name, Stefan Baumann. It's like I hate acrylic. Like it's
I hate
I
it.
like
I hate it. I will. I've used
why
it's because
the drying time, right?
I'm telling you, if you want to paint like the world, okay. So I started with acrylic, and then I moved into oil. I was brave, and in high school, and I was amazed with the difference, like the capabilities, the things you could do. You could do everything that you can do with acrylic, with oils, and more. If you want, it's if you wanted to paint more realistically or capture light in a realistic way or in a way that has lots of layers, like it's really hard to do that with acrylic. I mean, yeah, with acrylic, it once. I mean, have you ever tried using oils? Or are you scared
No,
to
I've
use
never
oils?
tried using oils. No.
See, you're just at that stage where you're scared. I was scared, but once you jump in and you use
No, I'm pretty
oils,
loyal to acrylic still. I'm
no,
pretty loyal.
no, you
But
just gotta try it once.
you gotta
You just
use the
gotta try.
different mediums. That's what makes it. That's what
I no, I refuse. I refuse because I'm willing to get. I think there's like a water-based version of oil. Like it's like a
there's
weird
water
like
mixable oil, yeah, that you could still use mediums with.
yeah.
Oil
I'm
paint.
curious about that, but also the fact that acrylic is like almost like plastic. It upsets me because I love the smell of oil paint.
It's
I
not
love the
Lindy.
lip.
You mean it's not Lindy? Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean?
It's not Lindy acrylic. Like oil is Lindy.
Oh, well, no, it doesn't really matter the brand, but it's just that
No, you know the Lindy. You know what that is?
is it a brand of
No, you don't know the concept.
Retvrn?
Oh my God.
I
Oh,
do not.
oh, you
Explain.
sweet summer child. No. So Lindy is like it's funny because I hate this guy. I absolutely despise him. The grifter Paul Scholes, who writes fake books, and you grifted
Big
all the way
bucks.
to getting profiled in the New York Times.
Oh,
Paul Scholes, yeah.
wow.
He
Very
posted,
impressive.
he grifted and posted his way with fake PDF books all the way to getting profiled in the New York Times. Now a bunch of leftoid hipsters read about being Lindy. So Lindy is a concept that he stole from an equally contemptible thinker of the last 2 years. What's his name? Talib, Nassim Talib.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, okay.
yeah. Yeah, I think I vaguely remember him.
So
Yeah.
Paul Scholes was basically like the Nassim Talib reply guy, and I think they did work together or something. And he came up with this concept called Lindy that he just hammered and grifted and like spread everywhere. The Lindy concept is basically something. It's very simple. Something that it's so simple that it's like, why do you have to create this thing around it? Something that existed for a long time in the past has a greater probability of existing in the future for a long time. And then he's
Okay.
like, whole things are Lindy. Certain materials are Lindy. Certain concepts are Lindy. Certain elements are Lindy. This is that Lindy. Oil painting is Lindy as opposed to acrylic. So that's why I brought up Lindy. That's like
Ah,
yeah. So it's
yes.
basically like, and then he has a concept of like the 4 hour life, like work week. Then he's like got another concept called the Lindy walk, where you're like kind of like the way that a writer would walk, like you go for a long period of time but slower, take in the scenery. It's basically like he literally took the concept of a long walk and grifted it into a quasi philosophic
That's
concept.
impressive.
Look at Paul
Very
Scott.
impressive.
He probably
But
has you blocked though. He blocks a prolific amount
I
of
see
people.
your point now, but
Yeah, yeah.
Gio, I don't think it's the case that oil painting is just like, oh, it's in its top spot because, it's like a fad or it's like it's there because it was, I don't think it's like, I think it's there because it's actually good, is what I'm saying. It's
I don't
actually
think,
really
but I don't think that if a
the
work is in
best.
acrylic that you should degrade it. That it should be
Well,
lesser to an oil painting. It depends on
well,
how you
okay,
paint.
hold on a second, because I would slightly disagree. All right. I went to the Metropolitan a couple years ago. I when I go to New York, I don't do anything except go to the Met. That's literally all I do. Anyhow, so this time I went to I forget what wing it was, but it was like all the like surrealist art. And of
Yeah.
course I wanted to see I saw Giorgio de Chirico. I think I'm saying his name right. He's one.
Dikitico.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it Decadico? Okay. He's fantastic. I love his work. I love the surrealists.
Mhm.
Even like Dolly. I don't really have much of a problem with them. I think what they were doing was really cool. However, I was I
I'm
was
more of a fan of
so
Max Ernst.
I was so unimpressed when I walked up to the painting and it looked like house paint. And I know that Picasso actually looked like he actually used house paint for a lot of his paintings. When I walked up to the dolly was oil, and it was gorgeous. Okay, you can see the layers. There's light, but the
Can't believe
Giorgio
we're having this
Chirico one,
debate.
that painting, even though I've seen it in books and I love it, I've fawned over it. In person, it was so flat and ugly, and the paint was applied improperly. And that's the thing, is paint is an experience, like a painting is an experience that you have best when you're in person and you see it. And when you see an oil painting versus an acrylic or house paint, the quality of it is different. Thus, I
No,
think
totally
ends
disagree.
up
I'll tell
meaning
you
that
why.
the value of it might be lower, like just
Totally disagree. I will tell you why.
really.
Let me
Tell
educate
me.
you. Let me.
Oh, really? You're gonna educate me?
I used to
Okay, sir.
watch
Go ahead.
when I was young, when I was in high school. I can't believe I'm admitting this. I used to watch like people like Mark Levin. I used to piss people off because he used to say that all the time. He's like, "Let me educate you. Let me educate you." It was like, let's face it, it was fun. Even like BAP is inspired by Michael Savage, the way that the libs would call into the show,
Mm,
and like let me educate you. Let me educate you. Okay.
okay. I'm
So the
willing.
time,
I'm willing.
what would you say?
I'm willing to hear you out
Okay,
on
okay.
this.
The time in which Dikitico and other early painters, should I say, early adopters of acrylic paint, whether it was him or Frankenthaler,
So he's
it,
using acrylic.
he's using latex paint
Oh,
that
you
is
see?
similar to house paint.
I could tell that there was something wrong. Okay.
Yes, because the early products that they were offering artists for acrylic, they were very similar to house paint. They were basically latex. But then later on, during the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, when these companies like Liquitex and like Golden, when they fully developed acrylic emulsion technology, then they could come out with artist colors that were dedicated to artists that come off pretty similar to oil
Oh,
paint.
is this where
And
we're
then
going? Is this where we're going, Gio? Because you know what? I've used the stuff and I have it, and it's crap. And it looks exactly the same. So don't you try
no,
it.
no,
Don't
you
you
have to
try.
use it a
Don't you try.
certain way. You have
Oh,
to use
really?
mediums. You
You
can't be
use
afraid. And you can
really?
layer with it. It doesn't take a lot of time. You can
You're just
like,
scared. Just face it. You're
no.
scared.
No,
You're
I will
scared
always
to use
defend acrylic.
oil.
Do not
You
listen,
haven't used.
woman.
Listen, you haven't even used oil. You don't even know what you're talking
And I
about.
never will.
What? Why? Explain
Because
why.
I'm bucking
Why?
the trend because I truly believe in acrylic paint and I'm
No, you
defending it.
can't just be a rebel without a cause. That's not
I'm not
acceptable.
without a cause. It's because I don't want the hassle of cleaning.
See, that's what it is. You don't want the hassle,
No,
but
because
it's worth it.
but I do believe that you can get, like, even you even admitted that you thought that
What?
I was painting in oils. So you just
But that no, but that's because it's through a camera, like like I was saying, when you're seeing it in person, a painting is the best experience you have with it is in person. And I can't tell through the computer, like on the screen, what the paint is.
Hmm,
And you're also you're kind of you're using very thick strokes, so there's a lot
yes.
of like layering with oil. You what I've noticed is that with acrylic, it's hard to do like transitions and gradients
Just
and
use
all that.
just use a mister. Just use
No,
a
it does.
mister.
No,
It's the same
I've
shit.
done that. No, I've
No,
done
like this
that, and it
specific,
does not
like one
work.
of these.
No, it doesn't work. If
It
you want
works.
to
This
paint,
one works.
I'm
This one is a
telling you,
micro mister. It works.
no, not to paint hyper, not to paint hyper realistically. Trust me, I struggled in high school for years using acrylics, and then finally I was like, you know what, I'll try oils.
You're
And
lying to
my
me.
life was changed forever. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, why are we having so why are we having this
I'm just kidding. It's fine. If you want to use acrylics, then that's fine. Personally,
No, do not condescend to me now. Now that you've
well,
don't
if you're gonna
condescend to
be
me.
about this, if you're gonna get your titties in a twist, then fine.
Okay.
I'll give
listen,
you a little
I'm
bit.
losing frame
Okay?
right now. I should listen to my friend Ryan Stone. I'm losing frame. Oh man, I have to go back and listen to more lectures from pickup artists. I'm losing frame. Right now. No, I'm not offended. Don't worry about it. What did I want to show you?
I know you're not.
No. I'm a bit offended, but anyways,
And
no, but
the acrylic, not even man enough to do oil. Just think about that.
oh my god, oh god, I'm turning this off right now. This is terrible. I'm totally I can't believe I'm being BTFO'd. So this is soy based and it's good for it's it's the same open time as a lot of oil based intaglio inks. You basically have to like put it in contact with celluloid for it to dry completely. So it's like weird technology they have. And this is an oil water mixable oil. This cost an arm and a leg, but I wanted to do a sepia by Chabanel, which is probably the best printmaking ink you can find, Chabanel, and from France. And it's this cost a pretty penny, but this is water mixable.
They get
so
expensive.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference when you buy the expensive stuff.
Yeah, but like when it comes to most like wood cuts, I just use speedball. But yeah, but this stuff is great. Like Charbonnel is really great. Like I gotta admit, it is like higher quality. But you pay for quality essentially. But because like when you do have like a method to it when it comes to like intaglio printmaking, you do like I'm not like I don't obsess over like a lot of these clean line stuff. Like I like when there's a haze to it. I like when they all look different because intaglio, you're never gonna get the same print like 100%. It's like impossible.
Yeah, so, I've tried it, and it's never gonna be the same.
That's what I like about it.
That's
though,
fine.
That's what I love about it because it's a copy, but there's an element of chance to like there's an element of sort of authenticity to each one, especially when it comes to intaglio. Even like wood engraving.
Let's actually go back to the
photograph
topic of
thing?
photography because like there you would say there's kind of a similarity there, but the point you just made,
long digression where I was getting BTFO.
No, that's fine. But there is like an element of chance with printmaking, and that's what makes it cool. And there's also a lot of skill involved, and but yeah, photography is like. I mean, explain why you think it's okay, because I'm sure there's like something out there, but vast majority, most of the time, anytime I go to an art museum or art gallery, it's just so boring. It's not good. I've never seen anything else.
Did I show you my my Doom Jack that I just did?
No,
imagine that.
That's
imagine
cool.
that. Imagine that printed off. I actually took like an etching needle and just like but anyways, about photography.
Yeah, tell me why you think what we
I think that certain photographers treat the medium in ways that are unconventional enough that can come off as being very artistic and original. There's people that physically manipulate the exposure time, that manipulate the actual material of the film. But nowadays, like photography, like a lot of photographers, it's like There is
but
a
it's like gallery stuff. Like there is a difference. National
okay,
Geographic is
yeah,
amazing because you can't like that. You know that picture of the girl with like she has like super green eyes and it's
the
like in the
Afghan
Middle East
girl, yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
the Afghan girl,
that's something that only photography can capture is this like
right,
rare
right.
moment where yeah, that's not something that we can replicate. That's a unique thing of
Yeah, like the
photography.
Times list of the
But
100 most impactful photos of the world. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and that's great, but when you go to an art gallery and they're treating it like art, it they don't it's not National Geographic photography that you see up. They just put that in a magazine and then the world sees it.
Right, right.
It's kind of like a different thing when you walk into an art gallery and you see like the art that they're doing and it's not going in a
Mhm, mhm.
magazine and it's supposed to almost like compete with painting or something or prints like and it doesn't and it's kind of like a thing of its own. It's not like National Geographic's, but my point is I agree with what you're saying, but these people they're like in their own like they're doing this thing that just to me doesn't really make sense. You kind of get
You
what I'm
know,
saying?
I know what you mean, but there's two different terms when it comes to like capturing the frame of the photography that I believe Roland Barthes used, or like, well, no, Deleuze actually in his moving cinema books. He talks about photography and how the placement of the subject within the photograph, like within the photograph, how that has like a level of determination and that has a level of artistic import. But at the same time, I do understand your criticism. I think like very few photography artists can reach the level of fine art because by its very nature,
Yeah.
it's like what Boris Groys wrote about once about the cartography aspect of like a lot of contemporary art. Like a lot of contemporary art is just the cartography of something or an event or of a sequence of information. Because okay, so are you photographing a thing that becomes an art object, or is the photograph merely a way of capturing something that by definition is an art object but cannot be
Mhm.
replicated as a static entity the way that other plastic arts are, like performance? Is it a way of categorizing performance, or is that performance, is it for the sole purpose of the photographer's art? So for instance,
Are you kind of getting into the concept of like the medium is the message kind of thing? I don't
yeah,
know. Is
sort
that
of,
kind of
yeah,
what you're getting
yeah,
at?
yeah. Is it like
So,
is
yeah,
the
because that does matter.
right,
Yeah,
right, right? Like is the photograph itself the art object, or is it category? Is it
it kind
merely
of
a
is.
yeah, yeah,
It
or
kind
is it
it kind of it kind of is because like physically there are limitations with what you can do with photography, painting,
right,
all of these mediums. They have a limitation in what it is that you can express to a certain extent.
right,
And then
right,
there's
right,
also, of course, things that are like culturally connected to them. So obviously, a painting has European aesthetics and whatnot writing behind it to kind of emphasize like what it means. Uh, but yeah, photography is one where it's kind of like a like I said, it's very good at recording things, and I think that's
yeah, yeah,
mainly association, which makes sense. It's kind of locked in by the fact that it's mostly used for that purpose. I don't know if
right,
that
right.
emphasizes your point or yeah, I don't know.
That's the
It's
cartography aspect of it. Yeah, yeah. But
mm,
like for example, like I mean, there's ones who like really were pioneers in terms of like taking photography into fine art. I'm thinking of like, or she really was the first e-girl before the internet was a thing. You know, Francisca Woodman.
um, no, it doesn't sound familiar.
Oh, you don't know
I might
Francesca Woodman?
I might know her work. I'm really bad with remembering names and like
You
stuff like
probably
that.
come across her in art school because like she is like, apart from like Frida and like and other ones, she's like the art ho goddess du jour. Um,
Can you send me one of her pieces real fast?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me send it to
Okay.
you. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a good one. Because like Francesca Woodman, she really was like an innovator in terms of like taking the photograph and like elevating it like with performance and with like these very like you can like look at her and like it's funny because Catherine, I was talking to her about Francisca Woodman. She's like, she looks at it, she's like, yeah, I could tell this woman probably checked out, Anne Heroed. So it's like, yeah, you could tell that this woman, she did art for like, the proto e-girl.
Ah,
And then she like would play around with the exposure and everything. But yeah, like just Google her work. Like I think it's fascinating.
very. Is it feminist? I'm getting a
Oh yeah, a
feminist
lot of
vibe.
feminist themes in it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But like yeah, there's a lot of those themes in it. I mean, or
Does
rather,
it-
like they read themes of that into because it's very much like the reason I say she's like the proto e-girl artist is because she like really got like down pat the confessional aspect of the work of art that she was doing with
Mhm.
photography. The confessional was really big. And of course, like she Anne Heroed by the time she was like 22 years old, something like that.
What's Anne Herod?
I can't say it for YouTube, but
Oh, Anne
checking
Herod.
out,
Anne Herod. Oh.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
See, it's they all like. There's like a
She
meme
fell out
that
with
you need to
some
be
guy
like that.
and yeah, she fought depression her whole life. Yeah.
Well, her work is exactly what I'm talking about. I hate to say it, but
You're
her artwork
bad.
is.
You're mean.
I guess I am kind of mean.
Oh
I
man.
I am kind of mean. That was kind of mean.
Oh, this is terrible.
That was terrible. Well, is
Oh,
it?
no,
I mean,
it's okay. I'm not judging.
no. Hold on.
Maybe
I
I'm too
take that back.
generous.
I take that back. I'm not going to be pressured. Her work, like what I saw, that is exactly what I'm talking about. That stuff is not okay. It's not good. There's practically no merit to it, and it's always like any Tumblr girl from the past could
Oh,
have done that.
but
Like
she was the first. She
when
was.
she well, yeah. To your point, that's exactly right.
Now
It's
all the Tumblr art hoes, they try to imitate her, but they'll never be her. They'll never be Frida.
they'll never
They'll
be
never be
because
Francesca Woodman.
they'll never be the original. So she's got
You
that.
will
She's the
never
original.
be Frida. You will never. Well, no, actually, if the art hoe wanted to imitate Lenora Carrington, that would probably be better than imitating Frida. But you a fan of Lenora Carrington?
I don't know who that is.
Oh my God, you love her work.
What
She was one of the only she was one of the only English not impressionists, surrealists out of England.
I'm just
And
gonna look her up. What's her
she
name?
had like this Lenora Carrington.
Lenora Carrington. Okay.
And she had this whole like mythology behind her work that is quite you'll like her. I think you'll like her. You'll like her stuff. A lot of fantasy work involved too. Like she has her own like inborn like mythology.
Oh, I do like this. Yes, I've seen. There's some like classical song like playlist, and it's got one of these pieces from her
Yeah.
on it, and it sticks out of my mind. So the Spanish like Mexican like the artwork that they do, the surrealist stuff is so cool. I love surrealism. It's fantastic. Did you want to talk about Frida Kahlo?
Yeah.
Was that okay? Frida Kahlo, I think I find her work to be. I think her work is silly and charming, but I don't. It's kind of like something you would see in a Wes Anderson film, like in the background. He'd have as like a goofy, like fun little thing that would be there to be silly, but intriguing. But I don't know. I kind of feel like in her case, even though like a dolly is surreal and it gives you an experience like it's a unique experience, kind of takes you to another world, but her paintings are more like silly. They're kind of goofy. And that's fun in itself, but it's not like the reason why I'm interested in surrealism. So I just kind of think
Right.
she's a goofster. And if she's taking herself seriously, that makes it even funnier.
She took herself very seriously.
She did.
Yeah, she was
Kind of
well,
sounds like it.
yeah. Oh, you're vicious. My God.
I I guess I guess I am, but we have
You're
to
more
be
vicious
because
than Trad Western. I'm gonna have Trad Western on this podcast soon, by the way. Brandon Hurd. But you're just, oh my God, I can't believe.
this is it not the truth? Is it not the truth?
Okay, I will agree. As much as
You will agree.
no, okay, hear me out. I wrote about her once when I used to do Modern Art Madness, but instead of YouTube, it was on my WordPress. I liked her. Like, I think that her stuff has merit in terms of, like, again, the confessional, the introspective, the damaged e-girl. Again, like, why do you think every e-girl loves Frida? Because she's them before the internet. Because she lived a very terrible life. She had excruciating, debilitating back pain. And,
I think she was in a bus accident.
yeah,
right?
and she had a bunch of botched surgeries. And
Yeah.
she had a few of those. She wasn't a very good person, actually, in terms of her personal relationships. I mean, she was passed around and abused a lot by these, like, revolutionary men. Because, as you know, a lot of, like, even before the 60s, a lot of, like, leftoid movements. There's this one great article that was written about Sam Chris by one of my former editors called "The Revolution in Puss," about, like, how the revolutionary spirit always comes about from, like, the need of, like, the leftoid, like, man to achieve, like, sexual, like, liberation, right? Like, so she was passed around. She was the passed around girl in these, like, communist circles in Mexico. She had a number of those procedures that I don't want to mention.
Oh, she did.
The variety.
Oh.
Yeah. I think she had a few miscarriages as well. And so she wrote about, like, the regret over that. She had debilitating back pain her whole life, and having, a few years ago, like, I suffered from sciatica for many years. But I've managed to maintain it under control the last, I want to say, 3-4 years. So yeah.
That's good.
So I understand, like, the constant, like, the gnawing away at you from leg pain and back pain. And so she would depict, like, the one work of art that I wrote about was called Broken Columns, where she depicted her spine as, like, a broken down Roman column. And I think, like, there was, like, nails in her legs or something. And she couldn't walk very good. But unfortunately, I remember talking about this with my friend Wide Dog. He's the winner of the Passage Prize. And we were doing an episode together, and he's like, the problem with her is, like, the unrelenting narcissism of Frida Kahlo. Like, every painting is her. She is the work of art, right?
Well, okay, and that actually leads me into a point. I think this is a really big issue with modern art, is that it's all about the artist, and the artist is kind of more of the art than anything else. So when people are looking at Frida Kahlo, they're taking her background into consideration, almost like more so than the actual art. And that to me is very telling. And don't get me wrong, I feel bad for the things that happened in her past, and there is merit in trying to, like, tackle that subject matter. I know she was into Schopenhauer for that reason, because she legitimately was suffering. But that doesn't change the fact that her art, I don't really think it's doing that great of a job at what she's aiming at. And it almost is, to your point, she was able to kind of craft a persona that kind of carried what she was doing more than, like, the artwork was actually it wasn't as good as the kind of selling point, which is more like who she was as a person.
And it wasn't as good as her husband Diego, obviously. Like, Diego Rivera, I mean, one of the greats, right? Yeah. Wait,
Uh,
what'd you say? Sorry?
Again, I might not. I may have seen his work, but just like not remember his name. There's just so many. There's just so many artists. I'm really
Yeah.
bad at remembering names. But yeah, maybe if I saw something of his, I would know.
If you look up
Sorry.
my favorite one, even though it's got like commie, like, you know, science brain messages, the one mural he did for Norman Rockefeller.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
look.
the one that he had commissioned, but then he painted over, called The Passage of Time. I think it's called The Passage of Time. Yeah, yeah.
So it's Frida Kahlo's husband.
Yeah, Diego Rivera. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, David Rivera. Okay, David.
Yeah. Actually, I also like him because he's a fat dude that married a more attractive mid girl. So there you go.
Mid girl. What's a mid?
Well, she wasn't like, was Frida mid? Do you think?
What is a mid girl?
Like, you know, mid. Like, I know it's such a popular term now. Like, I mean, I don't know what a mid is. Like, it's like, what is a mid woman? Yeah.
Wait, you don't know what a mid? What is?
No, do you know what a mid is?
No, I don't. I don't know what that means.
Okay, like, the discourse around mid, right? A mid woman, an average, plain Jane woman.
Okay.
Why is it?
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
So he married a mid.
Wait, is Frida Kahlo, like, would you consider her an attractive woman or a mid woman?
No, not what the unibrow.
Yeah, but she's mid though. But she's mid though in terms of attraction. She's
well, it is. Well, let me see. I'd say she's, with this new term in mind, I'd say that she's mid.
Right. Anyway, he married his BPD mid e-girl of his dreams. And of course, like, you know, she slept around. Like, she slept with Trotsky, and, you know.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah,
wow, they're all like.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't like that into, like, you know, the lore of things like really well. Like, you know the back end of all.
Yeah.
Which is really
No, she slept with Trotsky before he was, by Stalin, who sent his people there in Mexico to deal with him.
His people.
You know, by the way, R.I.P. Bozo, by the way. Yeah, so she slept around with these communist people in Mexico, and I think Diego was being, you know, a little bit, but no, Diego Rivera truly is a transcendental artist. Like, he did this mural for Rockefeller that is like this futurist icon that unfortunately was painted over by Rockefeller because he like put Lenin in there. Like, he put Stalin and Lenin.
Oh, you told me about that last time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have to look into it later.
Yeah, look up the Mexican muralists. I think they're right up your alley. The problem with a lot of like right-wing discourse around the woman question is that you can't, like, in some ways you can, but you can't be resentful completely of female nature, because that's just the way that, either through evolution or some inner spiritual compulsion or a combination of the two, women have evolved to look at relationships in a unique way and to like not be totally like the way, like the game. Like, it's funny, you know, it's what was her name? Soph? Yeah, she had this video on it about like even yeah. So she had the video where she said this line about like even in high school, even she's like, even the 80 IQ leg spreader can do these like Jedi mind tricks on men. It just comes natural to them. It's just instinctual. And it's true, it's instinctual, because that's the way that women have survived through the millennia. Because men are like these beasts that can like take advantage of them at any time and can leave them.
I was going to make that point. Yeah, they have to have some. They have to have some edge in order to survive, or else they wouldn't be alive. Also, something like gossiping, you know, it's a little bit different. But I heard this interesting podcast once talking about how gossiping in Africa actually saves women's lives, or saves people's lives, because they'll say, "Oh, that person, I heard they, you know, slept with that person, and that person has, you know, HIV or whatever, and by gossiping, you hear through the grapevine, okay, don't, you know, don't
Yeah.
mess with that person. So yeah, you know, there are things that like seem really nasty, like gossiping, but you know that you would say, oh, we need to make sure that women aren't doing those things, but you can see in this particular instance that it's actually a valuable thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, not all women are. I think I kind of wonder if women, their current state, like if they're all just kind of going with the trend and they're nastier than they were in the past, or have they always just been not very genuine and very manipulative? I'm not exactly sure. Obviously, there are women out there who don't do those things, myself included. But
Really?
yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's
100%.
fine. Yeah.
I don't know.
What do
It's
you mean?
female. No, I'm just screwing with you.
No,
There's female nature going on there.
everybody is going to be manipulative and do
Right.
things sometimes. That's just human nature.
Yeah.
But no, in
Yeah.
general, I like I said, I just try to be genuine and try to be myself. But yeah,
Right.
I I
I
don't
think no, but I think that like okay, so look, take an example. Take our disagreement right now about acrylic and oil, right?
know. Okay.
See, I'm not listen. I'm not seething over it. I'm not coping. I'm not seething. Okay, I'm using this purely as an example. But what would be worse? What would be worse if I were to like be oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I will try oils one day. Maybe I will. Who knows? I mean, you know,
I think you will. I
maybe
think
one.
it's too.
No, but if that was my immediate impulse to be like, oh my god, a woman's criticizing me, then it's like you cave. Or if I'm saying no, this is my medium, I will defend it because this is what I like.
Is that why you do that? Oh, so who's the manipulator now? I was just having an
No,
honest
no, no, but I'm
conversation.
not saying no,
And
but
really?
no, I actually believe what I said. I actually believe. Oh my god, no, I actually believe what I said. But I'm just saying that, like, if my immediate impulse was to be like the voice of the longhouse mammy, being like, "Oh, she's criticizing you,"
Yeah, I know what
therefore,
you're saying.
yeah, yeah. But if I
I
were to
get
say, "Oh, I guess you're right. I guess what I'm doing is totally of no value whatsoever because a woman criticized me," like people that I think like women always do the test, right? The SHIT test, right? Like it's always there. It's always like unconscious. But it's just like that's what men mean. Like that's what the pickup artists mean by losing frame is that you basically fail the test because
well,
you need to appeal to what you think is the sensibility of women as opposed to what they actually want and they're looking for.
I think you just have to be yourself. I think you just have to be
Yeah, at the end of the
genuine.
day, exactly.
That
Yeah,
really is just what it is. Like if you just
right.
don't care what people are thinking of you, which is really hard not to do, but if you just don't really care and you're just
Yeah,
being yourself, there's nothing more attractive than just like
yeah.
having confidence in yourself and looking towards something higher to be your inspiration and not other people.
Yeah, and sometimes like you got to take your lumps, you know? Like yeah.
I think I saw somebody else. I don't know that I'll mention them, but I saw somebody like fight a battle that they shouldn't have, and they
Yeah.
ended up losing their Twitter account, and it just seemed like it really wasn't it really wasn't worth it or strategic to do. There are yeah, so I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There's a time and a
Like
place.
Amy, unfortunately, Amy is like very quick to anger, and like she's a very unique person. Put it that way. She's very unique.
Mhm.
Um, and I think like they know that about her, and some of the stuff they say is just like incredibly like I like. And this is a person who's like an actual Marxist, right? It's like some of the stuff they say about her is just like so like I can't believe it. Like some stuff you can't even like not even a right-wing Paul cell that hate like unironically hates women could come up with some of the stuff they've said to Amy
Yeah.
Toots. It's
These
incredible.
people, yeah, they'll say stuff that's on my YouTube channel. I would go to Reddit and I would post, and they think I'm one of them, because that's like another thing is
I think
that
I've seen some of your Reddit posts. Yeah.
yeah, so some of the like the people there, they're like, oh, you know, this looks interesting, and then they'll watch the videos and they'll realize that something's off, and and
Oh
then
man.
and
Oh
then yeah, and then they'll like come at me, and they have said like some of the most offensive things. And I mean, like, I don't really get offended or anything, but like technically I've taken note, and they it's funny. It's funny because
yeah.
yeah, they're supposed to be the feminists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much for the tolerant left. But no, I think
Wow. Too far.
too far. Yeah. No, I think I have a theory about that. I actually talked about this with Nina Power. About like my idea of like I know.
I said too far, and then you like I could tell it kind of stung.
I was joking so much for the tolerant
Isn't
left.
isn't it so amazing that like if you use that on somebody, it works really well. Like it like stings to be told, even though you didn't go too far. It's just like it really does affect you psychologically when somebody says that.
Yeah. There's a line and you've crossed it. Where they'll say
Yeah, and it's
that.
like, oh wait, I went too far. Anyhow, what were
Oh
you gonna say?
man. Oh, about left wing versus right wing misogyny.
Mm.
About like how like the right wing person hates women in term like okay, they hate women, but they still recognize that the category of woman is a thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
But they just are resentful over the state of women or being rejected by women or XYZ, right?
Mhm.
You know, you just have to read Schopenhauer's essay on women to really like just
I
throw
have.
all the yeah, throw all of those pickup like throw all the manosphere books away, the ebooks, just read On Women by Schopenhauer. That's
Yeah. It
the true red
it's
pill.
it is. It's really good, and
Yeah.
that's coming from a woman, and but it's very on point. I think he says something about uh like this interaction between women that he's witnessed, where a woman will say like, "Oh, I really like your dress," and then the other girl's like, "Oh yeah, thank you," and then they walk away, and like obviously they like hate each other and like didn't like their dress, and he was just talking about like how like it's the manipulation thing, but yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I totally agree. But anyhow,
I
continue
think
on.
like you have to be something to know like the secret to their downfall. Like the fact like you have to be a woman to like really criticize what women are. Like it's
Yes,
kind of
it's only women who
yeah,
can really fix women.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. That's a powerful idea that deserves its own. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Because like okay, so it's kind of like The Believer, right? With Ryan Gosling. It's like it's the most unintentionally like red pilling film in terms of this particular group of people out of the Middle East. Because like you have to be that person to truly know what they're. It's kind of like
Mhm.
why all of the tribal people in the literary scene in Montreal why they hated Mordecai Richler because like he was one of them and he like viciously criticized the way they were with like books like Duddy Kravitz. So like that's why they hated Mordecai. That's why he's like one of the most canceled authors in human
Hmm.
history.
Oh.
Yeah, because like they like really like hated him because he exposed the way like all of their foibles and hypocrisy.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to, yeah, in order to really fix the female problem, uh this is why I like Brittany Venti.
Yeah.
She's her best videos are the ones where she roasts some girl.
Some East
Like
Lab. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and the reason why, and people will say in like the comments sometimes, like, "Oh, you're just jealous, or you're just being mean." And no, you don't get it. Women are supposed to do that. Women are supposed to keep other women in check. And when she makes those videos and she roasts women, it really actually does help. Like that is very important.
My
But so
favorite
many. Go ahead.
No, my favorite, just really quickly, was when she did the shoe on head one. She called her shoe ooh woo, like
Yes,
ooism. Yeah. Oh, that's
it
brilliant.
Well, I didn't
When I
even.
talked to Brittany, I mentioned that, and I said that was brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you've talked to Brittany Venti.
Yeah, yeah, and follow the rules.
That's cool.
We had a actually, like, Lev had a deal with her manager. She came on like a little bit, like for a whole
She's
month.
a
She came on
manager?
regularly. Yeah, yeah, she's got a manager. Yeah,
What? That's
yeah,
so weird.
yeah.
Should I get a manager? Do you have a
maybe.
manager? Do you have a manager?
Yeah, his name is. No, I'm
What?
kidding. I'm trying to make a
Oh,
joke.
to
Man,
make people
you
seem
think I'd be
cool.
doing all this myself if I had a manager?
What a manager? That's so weird. What does she need a manager for? I guess she kind of does need a manager.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
she does. I'm not trying to dog on her. I really like Brittany Venti. But yeah, the shoe on head video that really blew my mind because like I don't you know I don't want to be like mean to any girl, you know, Lauren
Right.
Southern or anybody.
I mean, you've been
But,
viciously
you know,
criticizing them for 2 hours, but it's all right.
that's true. But only like the ones that really deserve it, okay?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I could paywall it if you want, so they'll probably never.
No, I'm kidding. I don't
No,
care.
I know.
I don't care.
No.
It's totally fine.
I think, okay, as much as I criticize her, I think Lauren Southern did a valuable service recently by exposing these people. But anyways, about
You
shoe on
can
head.
redeem yourself. You can redeem yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Over time.
I forget my original point.
With women like criticizing physical features and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, about you have to know something to. But we mentioned Brittany Venti.
Oh yeah.
About oh god, I'm trying to remember. I mentioned Schopenhauer. I mentioned
that women need to be criticizing other women because you have to be in the group to kind of like
right. Yeah, about criticizing other women. That you said only women can fix other women, which I agree with. But about okay, oh yeah, left wing versus right wing misogyny. That's what it was. Okay, so the right wing will criticize women because out of resentment, ultimately, right? But women still have a place. They still have a role. Even if you take like the most extreme example of like a racist Paul cell that wants to view white women as essentially like breeding factories, right? Like literal breeding, like literal like Bosnian War. I'm not going to go down. Not going to go down there, right?
Is that what you think, Gio? Is that what you think of us?
Of course. No. I'm kidding. No. I think like to instrumentalize the feminine is terrible, but for a variety of
yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Actually, I like that.
I mean, I think women should be having more children, especially of us European.
Yeah, but to make something utilitarian, usually never like if you make it purely utilitarian, that leads to so many bad results. It's just like put really well. Yeah.
Right. But especially the feminine, which by definition should resist that sort of like utilitarian, like in framing, instrumentalization. Like I know kids fulfill a variety of utilitarian purposes, but it shouldn't be about that. It should be like having children should give meaning to your life, and it should give meaning to your culture and your environment and your religion, everything. Like having children incorporates so many elements of what it means to be a human being that to view it like simply as a political equation. I think that's the problem with a lot of like the Paul cells that have certain ideas around demographics. I think like, okay, why do you care about demographics if you're going to like view it as a utilitarian equation, as a math problem? Like if you truly cared about you as a Indo-European, it's like then isn't there something more to why you want to preserve Indo-Europeans than just a simple math equation?
Yeah, well said.
But okay, but the thing is, like, they still view women as having a purpose, right? Even though the purpose is very like, denatured, right? Like, but women still have a presence or an essence as women, right? But my theory is that left-wing misogyny is the total erasure of women. It is the male feminist, and it is also like invasion of feminine spaces, right? By
Mm,
certain ideology,
mm,
right? Is the erasure of what a woman is on an ontological level. On the being of a woman is fundamentally erased. And like so that's why the left like the Paul cell cannot compete with the misogyny of the AGP So
Interesting.
yeah,
So,
because what they're getting at is the erasure of woman qua woman, woman as the being of a woman. At
yeah,
least to my
I think I've noticed this too. It's kind of hard to
articulate. Yeah.
articulate. Yeah, this is a complicated one. Um, so a good example I think would be maybe uh, uh, sleeping with women. You know, uh, the leftist guy really benefits from uh, the feminist uh, the way that it's so hard to articulate like they benefit so much from the world that feminism creates like they
Yeah,
get lots of
you could see
sex and
why
stuff like that.
yeah, and you could see why the
Yeah,
irony leftist, why they love, like they absolutely love the whole like you're a chud incel that doesn't have sex, but they themselves do not have sex as well,
right. uh
right? Like, yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's it's so hard because women it's weird the men that are promoting not having frivolous sex they that actually ends up helping women.
right.
And the leftist that pretends like they're helping women by telling them to just go around and have sex with everybody, uh, that ends up benefiting the guy in a
Right.
hedonistic manner.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
liberation. You're promising liberation that really leads to another greater form of bondage, like a more
Yes.
nuanced
Yes.
form of bondage. Yeah,
So those women, that's well put. Yeah, the women on the left are in bondage in a way that they don't really understand. It's far more liberating, in my opinion, to be on the right side, even though it appears to be really nasty, because men are telling women kind of what to do.
yeah,
But it's so much more freeing because if you're you know your devices if you don't want to be a slave to your devices and these women on the left are. I don't know, it's a side point, but yeah, I it's really complicated. It's hard to describe what you're talking about and you're doing a really good job. It's just
well, I hope I.
yes.
No,
You are. It's
like
just it's a difficult one.
yeah, it's a difficult one. I think that like for instance, the whole like you touch grass, have sex, it very much is like it's the same like early 2000s like macho like man show type of like celebration of promiscuity, but like but it's funny though because like you were saying like that ethos leads in fact to the greater like cheapening of what the feminine is, even though like
Yeah,
on the other side
that's the main
but
thing.
I will say, to be totally fair though, on the other side a lot of trads unfortunately do have a very like a lot of their need for like traditional femininity is kind of like comes off as a fetish as well, but in a different way. So it's
I
like,
yeah, I think
yeah,
they just don't understand it. Because I'm still trying to understand what it is to be a woman and to be a woman in like a European sense, like in
hmm
you're within the European tradition. And so far, what I've seen online, I'm not seeing anybody answer these questions of what a woman is supposed to be like in that traditional sense. It's very simplistic, and like you said, it is almost kind of like a
fetishistic.
fetish or something.
It's very
Yeah.
much like it's the eroticism of limitation that I think unfortunately a lot of trads like you could tell when they have a fetish over like particular women. You could tell like there's some
Mm.
kind of eroticism going on in the background. When if they were kind of honest about it, I think they would have a much healthier approach to women. But I do feel that like okay, this is a controversial take. This probably get me in trouble. Um, but when I say get me in trouble, I don't mean by leftoids. I mean by like my people. Um, I think like the whole return to modesty thing that can only come about by women encouraging other women. I don't think like the way things are nowadays, it kind of wouldn't be the like unless you go back to like a traditional notion of like patriarchal chivalry, like you were talking about last time. It's
Mhm.
almost like women have to like lead by example for other women because
Yeah.
it's almost in some ways, I hate to say it, but like women are just incapable of like listening to what a man is telling them in a lot of ways, especially North America.
Yes,
Like they're not going to
I
listen,
agree.
right? Unless they want to do some kind of like e-girl, like trad e-girl parasocial relationship, some kind of like Dasha, like ooh woo, I'm trad cath now. Like unless you're doing that, and by the way, I'm more of an Anna person. I don't care for Dasha much, but I'm more of an Anna person myself. But I know I'm gonna get heat for that one. But no, unless they're doing that, I don't think that they're going to like sincerely listen to men telling them to be more modest. I think that they would like the modern, like especially like the
Well, like,
maybe not the like the millennial woman, they just find that incredulous. I think like I don't know.
well, and there's also there's that aspect of it, but what are the benefits of being a modest traditional woman? Like
Right.
if a any guy, even the guys, not all of them obviously, but I've
Uh-oh.
noticed they get kind of sucked in to uh the allure of women and their
Yeah.
sexuality
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they, you know, the reason why
We've
women
all been
are
there.
so nasty is because you guys, again, like we talked about in the beginning, you guys are contributing to it. So if you guys didn't give in to these women who are acting in these particular ways, and if all of the attention wasn't just going in that direction, uh things would be better. But yet to be like I've had people say, you know, criticize me, like, you know, I'm not perfect or anything, but even though I'm trying to do things in a different way and be better, people just, you know, they don't they kind of think, oh, you're just like one of the other girls anyhow, or uh you know,
Trad
or
larpy girl.
or or I, you know, yeah, I guess that's not really the point. I guess my point is that uh there's, you guys also have to create an incentive for women to want to be like that, but it's hard because how can you compete with, you know, all these hedonistic pleasures that are
Right.
offered to men through these other women? Like everyone would have to say, okay, I'm going to be the best possible person I can be, basically going back to Christianity or something like that. If that were to be the trend, women would step in line. They'd say, oh, acting like that doesn't get me any attention anymore, so I guess I'm not going to do that.
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
complicated.
It's
Yeah.
complicated because being a trad girl online does get you a lot of attention, but not in the way that I think is socially it doesn't have like the same effect as like social approval writ large for women. It's like
Yeah.
I think even Anna said this once on Red Scare. She was quoting some author that said like in a way like men want to have sex with a woman that is attractive to most men, but women when they have sex want to appear like they're having sex with someone who is socially like of high status, like something like that. It's like it was like
Mm.
the gaze of like the approval aspect for women is very large. I have to like look up the exact quote.
Wait. Okay.
Like they'll
Um.
go for someone who is deemed worthy to be with, right? Like
Mhm.
the like in other words, if a woman wants to like live a traditional lifestyle, unless she is motivated by a community where that is acceptable, where that is demanded of most people, then it's not going to work because unless you're doing some like specific, like I said, some like specific fetishistic thing for male attention, for a very attention for like very particular subset of men, unless you like arrange the social conditions around women to reflect those values, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think like one of the most like black pilling things I've ever read was a thread by my good friend Zero HP Lovecraft, where he had this is from like 2018. At the end he said like about like women have attached to them this like um civilization's lifeboat system, but they're trying to like poke holes into it. And he said
Mm.
like at the very end, he's like millennial women, it's not that they don't want to have kids because of economic anxiety, they just plain don't want them. And their real desires are, I'll never forget this, their real desires are hideous, hideous, hideous. You know who's going over the top. Because if you know about ZHP, you know the way, well, you know the way he's like about the woman question. But no, I think like it's true. I think like a lot of women, they just plain don't want kids. And it's because I think like I'm noticing the normalization of like this sort of what I call like pop antinatalism, like on
Mm. Yeah.
TikTok and on like, you know, where the inconvenience and the burden of reproducing is like,
But
yeah.
but there's good reason why women don't want to have children, and there are good reasons
Well,
why women want to be feminists, and that's because, let me explain. They're
their desires
from
are hideous, hideous, hideous. No, I'm kidding. I'm
well,
kidding.
women are from their government, from media and everything. We know that they're being told that, I think it's like a globalist thing. You have to be
Right.
a work. You have to be a worker ant. You have to be like the men. So one thing that's happened is men and women have become more like each other, and they've been
Yes.
neutralized.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that makes everybody really good workers. So
Right.
women
Right.
over time have been pushed into, like, through the law and with the government and everything, to be more independent and to be a worker. So they kind of have to, let me explain. Okay, let me see if I can put it better. Women have to work. They're forced into working because the way that our society works now, like, you have to have two people working in order to get a house. Like, you can't just have one person working like you could in the
Right.
1950s.
Right.
Women have been forced into the workforce. And so they have legitimate grievances, is what I'm saying, because of the way that the structure of our society has gone. Women are now faced with, like, they have to take care of children, but at the same time they're expected to work, and they shouldn't
Right.
have to do that. That really is actually a problem. So obviously, I'm not a feminist. I think feminism is bad and rotten and everything like that, and I don't actually think that they're right. But I understand where they're coming from, because
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
looking at things
Yeah.
from a surface level, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. But like, I mean, this is common knowledge. But I thought you were gonna like go like if there's another reason like or something that you're
Oh well,
intuiting.
I guess
Because like I think
I,
that like, we all
I
know the
guess.
argument about like the way that society is arranged for like maximizing. It's funny because like Byung Chul Han talks about this in Psychopolitics.
Well, hold
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
Just to answer your question real fast, I think it's that the perception in the community is that women don't have any legitimate grievances, and there's no sympathy for why it is they have these perspectives. It's almost like women are just being evil, and I
Right.
don't think that that's the case. I think you have to have some sympathy, and if we really want women to change and get better, those things would have to be fixed, obviously, and then I think they'd be happier. But yeah, I think that's kind of the point. It's just kind of like a lack of sympathy for why women have that perspective. Because don't you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
people are, yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Don't you think people on our end kind of are a little unsympathetic to, like, the fact that, women would be feeling the way that they're feeling?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I guess that's
No,
kind of
you're not hard on women enough. No, I agree with you.
yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that like, yeah, I think that because like, okay, because the 2010s were such a disaster for relations between men and women and for culture in general, and really
Yeah.
was a cultural black hole. And because I think of the radical like activism that has been normalized, and I think because we are seeing the rise of like that is one thing that Yarvin did do well, is that he said that like look for like the trend of like purposeful extinction, where like antinatalism will be normalized and this sort of like anti-human thinking will become normalized. I think like because all of that was such a disaster, and that the 2010s really destroyed a lot of relations between millennial men and women through a variety of means. I
Mm.
think like the right wing has instinctively entertained the idea of like female erasure out of like survival tactic, out of like
Mm.
this is the space where men can be men and
Yeah, this
women.
was the original topic. I kind of got us off track. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Sure. I'm doing the yard. I might be actually seeing him on a conference call tonight with Thaddeus Russell, so I'm not gonna have to be nice. I think I know. I think he knows who I am, but like, I've been kind of critical of
It's
Daddy
okay to be
and
critical.
Curtis. Yeah, yeah. What did you read the recent Hobbit and Elf article? Hobbits versus Elf. Okay, yeah, yeah. He wrote this article like the other day, and like absolutely everyone's talking about it. And it's like,
Oh.
yeah, you should read it. You should read it. I don't agree with it, of course, but like, it's interesting. It's interesting the way that he thinks about certain things. But it's basically like advocating that the right wing should just like, lay down and rot, and that like the people that run the world is actually like he didn't mean it like okay, so he has a very
So
specific
he's
picture.
just black-pilled? He's basically just like thinking, oh, the best solution is just to give up, despair. Because
Yeah,
I would never agree
because
with
us
that.
Chud Morlocks, we're not worthy of leading. Which I mean, he's kind of right in one way.
Wait,
Like I'm not gonna lie, but
wait, say that again? Because
he
we're
calls us the hobbits living in the Shire, and that we're not as like creative and intelligent and beautiful as the elves who run the
no,
world.
no, they're not. Okay, first of all, they are not the elves. Okay, let's
Right,
get
exactly.
things
That's the
straight.
counterpoint. Right?
There are many different groups of people in Europe. Some of them were elves, and some of them were just on the Shire. Okay,
Right, right.
and I think you might know who those people are. But anyhow, I
Oh, okay.
you don't yes
The
you
Amish,
don't
right? The Amish.
yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, the Amish.
um you don't give
Uh,
up. You never want to give up because it's a cycle, and in the long term your strategy might end up paying off, or like your group of people might end up evolving. This is my point. It's not up to you whether you're going to win or not the game of life. You basically just have to keep going, and
right.
you can't just say determine, okay, well, the odds aren't looking good, I guess we'll just lay down our swords and our guns and we'll just give up.
He uses the
Be-
analogy of a battered wife. Like I think you should read it. It's called like
okay.
it's in his Gray Mirror Substack. It's the latest one. It's about so he used this analogy of the battered wife and like what she should do. And like a battered wife should not hit the husband back, or else he's gonna hit her even worse. And
Mhm.
like the battered wife should just like create evidence against the husband. And like the worst thing that the battered wife should do is like try to like argue or like hit back, or like he goes through this whole like scenario, right? And he
Mhm.
says that because I think like the problem is that he has a very like 1990s understanding of the progressive elites
Mhm.
in Silicon Valley, like because he is one of these people, right? Like he is
One
of
of
the
these
upper.
people? One
Yeah,
of those
yeah.
people? Oh.
Well, yeah, but like,
One of the
I,
Amish?
yeah, he's one of the Amish. He's one of the Amish,
Whoa.
and but also being an early adopter in Silicon Valley and like making it rich at a relatively young age and like
Hmm.
rubbing shoulders with the elite. Like he has a very like one criticism I remember Charlemagne
Wait a
retweeted.
second. Wait. Where's your fez hat?
Oh, I
Excuse
took it
me.
off because it was kind of
Excuse me. I just
all right. Yeah, you
Where
just
is it?
okay. I'll put it back on. I'll
That's
put it
better.
back on. Oh, dang.
Okay, wait, I continue.
Hides the Norwooding. So yeah, he said so. Charlemagne capped and like posted this tweet thread on his Telegram that was very apt. He said that like the problem is that Yarvin has this like 1990s picture of the Brown, like of the progressive elite. Like they go to Brown University, they go to Burning Man, they listen to classical music, they're a part of like the literati and arts and culture. The modern day, like the modern day elf, like the modern day Eloy, like tech or like journalist elite, they're
Mhm.
not those people. They have very like destructive like
Yeah.
views, like culture and high society, right? So
Yes.
that's his problem. So he's saying like, and he says this before. He's like, well, you know, the elite, they're like, you know, wonderful and beautiful people, and they're creative, and they go to Burning Man, and those are the real elite. And it's like, really, they're the real elite? Like it's
Well,
yeah,
it's not. It's not. No, there's another problem with this because what's happened over time is lots of money and lots of like uh, ostracizing people out of Hollywood or whatever ended up leading to people who are on the right wing.
right,
You can't be creative and be on the right wing and be like we used to be in those fields, in artistic fields, but you get weeded out like it's
yeah,
like yeah, so that's not exactly fair. It's not like we don't have an interest, it's just you can't be in that space anymore. They literally push you out,
yeah,
like ruin
yeah.
your life.
Like I agree with him the extent that like I agree with his critique of like right wing populism. Like I think you need people who like do possess like creativity and intelligence and who can form a vanguard because
Yeah,
like like but at the same time I think like the chuds, quote unquote, the masses, like the blue collar people that you know I've grown up around my whole life, like they do serve a purpose. Like they do
they
have
do.
instincts that are correct. And I think like it's like who was it that said it? Was it like I forget, was it Octavian or Marcus Aurelius? It was one Roman emperor that said, "I love the people, I fight for the people, but I'm for the people, but I'm not of the people." And I
Mm,
think like in some ways Curtis he
that's
wants to do
cool.
that, but like he doesn't realize that like the current elites are not that as well. Like the current elites, like as much as I think there's flaws in this particular idea, I think like Spandrel, he did get a few things right, but you know, like the concept of bio-Leninism, right? Like that is true. Like our elites currently, the auxiliary positions are stacked by like people who aren't that very like gifted or clever, or bright, or who have like even like a low time preference. Like bio-Leninism will destroy society because if you keep stacking the elites with like very loyal, basically very loyal genetic trash who can't like do anything, like it's not
Mhm.
gonna work out after a while. Like
Well,
that's the
yeah, everything, there's a cycle to everything. So,
yeah,
the people will kind of lose their way, genetically or whatever for a
yeah,
while, and then they'll become fatigued, and it
spiritually,
will,
yeah,
yeah. There's always something that ends up, you know, because if you're not being challenged, then you're
right.
not really like growing, and so they're going to become basically complacent and stagnant,
Like
which
that's the
they
thing.
already kind of have.
Yeah, like for instance journalism, if journalism like if you go to like okay, I know like people have problems with them, but like say the new journalism of the 70s, people like Tom Wolfe and like Norman Mailer and like you know Hunter S. Thompson, to go to like from that to like Taylor Lorenz, it's kind of like that's kind of damning, right? Like that's
Yeah, I see what you're getting at.
to
Yeah.
have people's public consciousness be ceded to people like Taylor Lorenz is like what are we
Well,
doing as a civilization at
yeah.
that point,
Well,
right? Like
one thing that happens is that oh, my daddy knows somebody or
yeah,
whatever, and then that's like one of the other things. There's so many factors, but yeah, they degrade too in their if they're not
yeah,
being challenged again, they'll falter too.
yeah. Well, it's like what we talked about with the trad thing, right? Like I mean that's why people like BAP like criticize them so viciously because I think like they want this like cozy wholesomeness thing,
Mhm.
but at the same time it's like I don't know what to make of that debate. Like whether the problem is that we're like, it's not that people are like sexually degenerate, it's rather that we're not having like, we're like a very like almost asexual society, and that like people like BAP say that like there's like people are so ugly and degraded nowadays that there is no true like eroticism. And so I don't know like what to make of that debate. I know like a lot of like religious like trad people have like heavily criticized BAP in his assessment. And like, you know, of course BAP nowadays is like very critical of like the religious trads. But like
Mm,
I can see
okay.
like both sides of the point, like both sides of the aisle. Because like on one end, like as much as we're like obsessed with like sexuality and like we really have experienced like the pornographic, like the pornization, how can I put this, the pornization, like the pornographic like social arrangement that we have now, like where pornography is everywhere, like everything is gratuitous, at the same time that leads to like the opposite. It leads to like almost like this weird like androgynous asexuality everywhere, now that like the proliferation of like gratuitous sexuality is everywhere. Sexuality is nowhere at the same time. Like it's
Yeah.
really weird time. It's like a
Yeah,
really
it is.
weird product of 2010 sexuality, right? So yeah,
Well, I obviously, well, everything in my opinion all comes off of us losing a sense of we who we are.
right,
And
right,
you know, the Bible is you know, about a family lineage. And that's that like if you look at a lot of old European art, you'll see family trees and stuff like that. And
yeah,
people have lost their ability to focus on that, and that's why I mean well, and then it just, you know, to your point, if you can't, it's almost like people can't see the spiritual end of things, and that like well obviously they can't, and when you don't, then sex loses a lot of its value and it just becomes like this hedonistic thing, and then there is no
right.
sensuality or whatever. Yeah, anyhow.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like that's a big like there really is no like true, I think, eroticism left. Like people confuse pornography with eroticism. And I think like that's a big problem. And yeah, yeah. Um but anyways, let's we didn't get to talk about wait, I'm just doing something really quickly here for YouTube. So
That's okay.
yeah, I'm just gonna publish the content minded. Oh, I got monetized for it, so that's pretty good.
Oh,
Um,
oh.
yeah, I have to work like really hard to like censor different like all the bleeps and the swear words and yeah. Um, so yeah, yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
so do you have to listen to the whole thing again, or like while we're talking, do you like write down like, oh, at, you know, 1 hour and 20 minutes we said the F word.
um, I I try to write it down,
Ah,
but sometimes it just doesn't work. So I
yeah.
have to like I go and I listen to the YouTube version of it again,
Ah,
and I edit it
okay.
around. But like the Patreon one, I don't give a shit. Like I just
Yeah.
screw it up. But like, I mean, apart from like certain things I have to censor out,
Mhm.
that like someone says something kind of like particularly horrendous, which hasn't like happened all that
Uh-oh.
often.
But
Like
I haven't. Am I good?
no, we've been very optical, except for like
Okay.
certain words here and there. Like even words like the K word, ill, or like
Yeah, that's
try to
why
say
I
anti-heroing or like sunsetting or something. I can't say like the actual S word on YouTube, but
yeah.
like, yeah, you know.
Well, yeah, I that's why I've kind of been like I get kind of cloudy in what I'm talking about because I know I have to be very conscious of the words that I'm using
Oh,
because
it's okay. I can just
yeah,
edit it out like for the YouTube
yeah,
portion. So
fair
it's all
enough.
right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't get to talk about, I think, like your own aesthetic in terms of like the synthwave, vaporwave, like early 2000s computer,
Mm.
like that's what attracted you initially to like what is the development of your aesthetic sensibility? I think like that's a good question.
I think it's gonna evolve more over time with like my message and I kind of strategically, leaned into it. But I also have had an interest in the vaporwave aesthetic type thing for years. And probably
Right.
like around the time it arrived on the scene. So like, yeah, I wasn't early enough for like 2012, but I would say like 2014 is when I started to notice it. And I've always been a fan of the 80s. I like love the 80s. I love hair metal. I love, even like the crappy pop 80s stuff. I love it. I love it. I love the nostalgic feel. Like, there's a feeling to it. It's really
Yeah.
great, and it's got cheesy things going on with it, like bad hair, but it's just such a pure, beautiful time in American history. I really think, like in like the with the culture, like beautiful aesthetic. I love it. Fun aesthetic. So that kind of led me into kind of taking up the vaporwave thing, but my true aesthetic, like what I actually really truly like and what I'd like to express one day, uh, it's not exactly like what I'm showing. It kind of is similar. Like there's some elements where I kind of go off of vaporwave and I kind of go in a different direction. I really like the Wizard of Oz. Like I like
Oh,
Technicolor.
really?
Yeah, I really like
Yeah, technically,
Technicolor
yeah. Yeah.
and like Gone with the Wind, and so
Oh, yeah.
like hyper saturation of colors. I also like Stanley Kubrick. I think this might be kind of obvious, but yeah, I hope that eventually comes to fruition and I'm able to like express that. But since I'm trying to say something, and it's kind of activistic for me to be doing what I'm doing, I kind of decided to strategically use a trend that I knew was going to blow up, and then it ended up blowing up. So I kind of wanted to like ride it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe with this some success, but it is a cool aesthetic. So I'm not dogging on vaporwave as being like something bad, but at this point, it's kind of a bit overdone, and I'm ready to kind of move out of it a little bit. You
I
agree, right?
in some ways, yes, but I think that like more specifically, the 1980s, that's done. That's done. Okay, we're entering the 1990s now. In
Mm.
terms of nostalgia, we're entering the stuff that I love. By the way,
Wait, so you think the next stage that we're going in is the 90s? Because I
we're
actually,
already here. We're already here.
I
We're
already
already there.
think I think so too. I think that if you were to take on like or like do you know Slow Dive, the band
Yeah.
Slow Dive?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That I feel like that's where we're heading, like
Like
sonically.
sonically, you
Shoegaze.
a revival of shoegaze, like
Yeah.
certain albums of the Verve, Catherine Wheel, My Bloody Valentine. Uh,
Yes. Dude, we're on the yeah, that's a validation because I think to myself when I'm thinking about like what to do next, I'm trying to plan it, and that's the direction I've
yeah,
instinctually
90s drum
wanted to
and bass
go.
sets, intelligent drum and bass sets. Like,
Yes.
yep.
You mean like Aphex Twin?
Aphex Twin, LTJ Bunkum, a lot of
That's
like the more obscure labels from England that came out of that
yeah.
area.
That's
Like
so fascinating that you
PJ
think
Studio set, Bryce 3D animation.
that
Like,
I do not know.
oh man, like if you go to like any drum and bass set and you see those visuals, you could tell when it comes from Bryce 3D. Like you could see
Oh,
the early
okay.
internet, like the early 1990s to the early 2000s animation, like like that stuff, Y2K aesthetic, like that is like all injected into my veins. Like that's maybe because I like maybe as like the children of the millennium, like like I think for us, like I mean, like in December I'm turning 30, right? So
Mhm.
like kind of like the core to younger millennial,
Yeah.
right? Millennial, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but but it's like I know I'm gonna be an old man, 30-year-old boomer.
A boomer. I
Kind
don't
of
know.
yeah, you know the expression 30-year-old boomer.
No.
Oh
Don't
yeah,
we're no.
it's just a meme, just a meme.
Just a meme. Just put it out of your head. That's the quote. It's just a meme. It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna be an old man. um, But, no, but I think like that stuff, I mean, I'm already seeing signs of it. Thank you everyone for listening to the Content Minded podcast. If you wish to support me and to unlock every full and uncensored version of each week's podcast, please go to patreon.com/GineArtProductions. You will not only get every full and uncensored version of Content Minded, but you will also get exclusive content, such as my Giant Art Reviews series, where I analyze and pick apart various interesting and insightful books or essays. Every episode will be uploaded to Anchor, which will upload them to Spotify, as well as my backup channel on Odyssey. Please look out for new content every single week, and please look out for the Digital Archipelago with me and the Prudentialist. Thank you once again to all of my beautiful patrons. Thank you all for keeping the content renaissance alive. As I always say, God bless and goodbye.